Sorry, we're chatting over here. So we're going to call the meeting to order. Happy New Year. We have one more commission member. So welcome everyone who's here or online. Today we have the great Adam Davenport's in charge of us today. So I'm going to ask you to read the preamble and everything, and then we'll take the roll.
Let's do it. All right, here we go. Preamble. So in compliance with the notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law, section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Ohio, 1766. Notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the city planning department conducts Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during this meeting will be taken by voice vote. Refusals behind any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking place. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting action be heard, we ask you that you just raise hand feature before asking a question. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version, activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you. Be sure to select unmute and announce yourself to your speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with our participants. The chat feature can be accessed by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx. All meeting activities is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on any particular matter submitted to proper channels have been considered. We also have received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Proper channels for comments are also listed below. Communication with members of this body must follow our channels for consideration. Any comments received by the Wednesday 12 p.m. deadline are collected by city planning staff and sent to commission members prior to the schedule. Back up to you.
We'll call the roll.
Anthony.
Present.
Luker.
Present.
Curry.
Present.
Trey Scott.
Present.
McKnight.
Present.
Sergeant.
Present.
Slight.
Present.
Chair, we have a form.
We have a quorum. First item is to approve the minutes from the December 15th meeting. They are here if anyone needs them. Were sent in advance. So any questions or comments or a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes. A second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Luker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Trey Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sergeant.
Yes.
Slight.
I'm going to abstain because I missed a good chunk.
Yes. Motion carries. Note one abstention. First item is a zoning matter, which is a public hearing. So for those of you who are here or online for this, first we hear from staff who will present a report on the zoning matter. And then we hear sponsor testimony. Anyone who's here to speak to this, this could be the applicant or the council person or whoever is really here who is putting this forward. And then we take public comment, and the public portion of the meeting will hear from proponents first and then opponents second. Before you speak, raise your hand. I will call on anyone online or here in order. Please state your name clearly, and you will have 2 minutes to speak on the matter, and we will hold you to that just to keep moving the agenda forward. So for this first zoning matter, it's a conditional use permit. It's a townhouse in a 2-family district. Permanent parcel number 002-08-074 at 1268 West 67th Street. We have Christopher Roberts to speak to this, but I'm going to ask if staff, if it's Shannon or you, is they there? Shannon. Okay.
Good
Shannon,
morning.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair. Shannon Leonard, Chief Zoning Planner. I apologize, I don't have a presentation for you this morning, but this is an application for 2-unit townhome on West 67th Street, seeking a conditional use in a 2-family district. You're here to determine if the conditional use is appropriate based on the context and the character of the design and the site plan, and making sure that it's in context and scale, massing, and vehicular circulation with the existing neighborhood. And I will say that this is the first application. The townhouse code modifications did become effective on 12/27. And so a public notice in the form of a sign did go out 10 days prior to this meeting to alert the neighbors that this conditional use hearing took place. Beyond that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. So then is Christopher here to present the project?
Chris is not here. I'm the representative of, my name is Jared Kopic. Should I?
Yes,
say that?
come on, just over here. You'll be able to see you online. Wait, state your name again?
Jared Kurochik.
Okay, and you
I'm
are,
a owner as well.
okay,
Chris is out of town, so I am representative for here. So
Okay.
any design questions I may defer to the architect, which I believe is on the call, Mark Reinhold.
okay,
Also, the other owner, Dominic Roberts, I believe he's called in as well.
okay.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions to the commission if I can.
Okay, go ahead.
So without going into all this, are we just trying to go into a quick summary of the project itself? Just a fee simple 2-story units, 2 of them, approximately 2,000 square feet, north of Herman, south of Father Crusoe on West 67th. 3 beds, 3.5 baths with an age-in-place concept, along with a historic Italian brick storefront facade. The location you see here. Those are the existing conditions right there. There's a property in the north of the lot that's going to stay. Similar context to some of the storefronts. That's the site location. You see where the proposed construction would be, and also the existing home that is at the north boundary of the lot. There's the site plan. Both units. They'll sit similar, same north existing structure. It's going to remain.
It's vacant currently.
No, it is being rented. Yes.
Oh, okay. Wait, the site is vacant.
The site is currently that's pending lot split, but the site currently has a single family home that is being occupied. There is
And demolished.
no, that will stay. The development will take place on the open land that is on the south border of the overall.
Oh, I get it. But it's vacant. There's nothing on it. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
on the
as
site.
yeah, as of now, the location where the construction would take place is quote unquote vacant.
Okay, good. And sorry to the staff, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did we approve the lot split already? Did we see the lot split already?
No, this is just a conditional use.
Yeah, that's
So this is the permission to build a townhouse and to have additional units.
Okay. And you own both the house and the land?
yes,
Okay. So it's one lot, you guys own it.
correct.
You will split it.
Correct.
You're asking for conditional use on a site that hasn't been split yet.
Correct.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can we do that?
Yes.
Meaning?
Yeah. This is fairly similar to, I mean, maybe Shannon has a better example, but
We can't approve something that for a lot that doesn't exist, basically.
the Shannon could go maybe to more
Shannon,
the depth of the conditional use, but this would be very kind of like the West 74th case.
Shannon, I know you're on there. Can we be acting on something that does not exist? So we're approving a townhouse on what is currently a lot that has not been split, doesn't exist. Shannon, are you online?
She's not answering.
We'll keep going. I do have a procedural question here. This is really unusual because, go ahead.
Planning Commission has authority over lot splits that result in substandard
Yeah.
parcels.
Yeah.
So it would be a frontage of less than 40 feet
and square footage of less than 4,800 square feet. So if those two conditions apply, then they will have to come back and get on the agenda for public months. Right. No one has. It's totally against.
Okay, but we're approving something on before that has happened. So to approve sort of, let's say, the context, the adjacencies, the idea of a townhouse on a lot that, you know, is just in my opinion, out of order in terms of, I'm not saying we wouldn't do it, but let's keep going. But we may need to really think about the fact that what we're looking at and what we're approving from a context point of view, from an appropriate point of view, from an adjacency point of view, we would approve the lot split either at the same time, which maybe we should talk about whether we're allowed to do that, and then we would approve the appropriateness of a townhouse on that lot. So, well, go ahead, and we'll think about it as we are. Maybe we could talk to Shannon while we're going through this. So go ahead.
Well, I guess as far as the remaining of the presentation, there was the innovations, there was the layout, site plan. Don't have a whole lot more to provide at this time. The renderings were up for a moment.
Yeah.
Saw how the exterior would be, once again, Italian brick storefront, mimics some of the historic locations throughout the neighborhood, along with some darker colors to accent that. And this is looking west on 67th with, you know, active rooms facing the street. Then drive pulled into the back with rear located garages.
Okay.
That's the other evidence for the rear.
So, Madam Chair, I guess just from a point of clarity, as we were trying to figure out if it's procedurally possible, since the applicant is the owner of both lots, and what he's here today to present is about conditional use to do the 2-family and 1-family. Is that correct, Adam?
It's a 2-family district.
Right.
Townhouse.
Townhouse.
Yeah.
I guess the contingency of whether or not we approve this today, I guess, would it be different if the 2 lots were owned by different people? Does it make a difference that the lot is owned by, or the 2 lots are owned by the same person?
I mean, for me, like if they were 2 lots, we wouldn't have an issue. My sense is like now, just to help them. So if we agree the project makes sense, can we just also approve the lot split to come back to staff? But this needs to be split.
I'm sure the lot split is not on the agenda.
Well,
Back to that.
well, Madam Chair, to all concerned, I'm a very practical person, and I always like following the rules. And if we're going to break the rules, we need to know the rules. I don't understand what the rules are, quite frankly, in my opinion. Don't want to set a precedent, obviously. And so I'm not really clear if we're following anything other than shooting from the hip at this point.
Yeah.
So I would rather that we postpone this so we have a little more clarity, so we don't fumble our way through this process. That would be a motion.
Yeah. How about this? I agree. We should probably just procedurally for you too. I mean, is just make sure that we follow procedure so that you know that you can move forward. But maybe before we postpone or table, just in case somebody came to speak in favor or opposing this, maybe we could just hear that. Like if there's any anyone here, since it's a public hearing, and then we'll just follow that procedure. Mm-hmm. So is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this conditional use, either online or in person? You can raise your hand. So I don't see anyone. Is there anyone here who is opposed to the zoning map, to the townhouse in a 2-family?
You also send a letter to the council person. Support.
In support.
Yes.
Okay. So that's good
Shannon,
news.
I think is back.
So
We actually, if Shannon's not on, she talks to the idea of, I think conditional use, because of the type of the permit, allows you to kind of have like in procedure or like on the way to getting all their bells and whistles checked, right, Shannon? Like that's what the conditional use permit allows you to do. It's not like it's not a go to proceed to you're at the finish line, but you have to do all these other things.
Shannon, are you on?
I am here. So the conditional use, generally we don't do lot splits. You all do not review the lot splits, give or take, for townhouse. It's kind of implied in the application. There's no minimum lot size requirements for townhomes, which is why the conditional use is generally required in a two-family district. So the lot split does not need to be complete before you all rule on the conditional use. The question here is, does this project application meet the standards of the townhouse conditional use requirements? In other words, do you agree with the site plan, which essentially basically says, do you agree with the lot split, as well as does this meet the compatibility massing scale, and is it within context of the existing properties surrounding this specific property location? I hope that's clarified.
Yeah. Can I ask a question though, Shannon? So since they own the lot, could they build this without splitting the lot? So like,
yes, if they could do a duplex.
So if they chose not to split this lot and build a townhouse adjacent to the home that they own the parcel for, would we also feel it was appropriate if they were not selling but renting them? I'm asking. So that is possible too.
That is possible as well, yes.
Okay.
And in that case, they wouldn't need a conditional use for a townhome. If it was like just one single lot. So what makes it a townhome is that it is 1 or 2 units attached or more on their own separate lot. So since they're subdividing this is considered a townhome. If they were just keeping it on one lot and not splitting into 2 separate units on 2 separate lots, then it would be considered a duplex, and they would not need a conditional use from this commission. They would be adjudicated as a duplex or a row house.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I would say I live in this neighborhood. I think the typology of the architect of the house is actually really interesting, and the fact that it's almost like not copying but paying homage to some of the other buildings. Like the one that you showed in the image is actually Il Leone, so like that restaurant or that storefront, and bringing that into kind of a residential kind of fabric, I think is pretty interesting. It would be pretty cool to see that replicated throughout the neighborhood, actually. So.
That was the intent to kind of make it look like it's been there for 80 to 100 years. So
I think it's solid.
Madam Chair, I always like learning from experience. This is great that we're learning on the run, I suppose. I would advocate in the future that this be somewhat laid out to us so we understand. This is the first time I ever experienced this as a planning commission member. So that's why we're a little hesitant. So I think I understand it, but I think, when we have a situation like this, maybe we treat this like we're getting instructions to the jury so we kind of understand what we're here and what our sort of what our charge is in the future.
Especially as we have a new code and we're going to see a lot of stuff that's going to be very different, which is good.
If I may, it is a rare case of just 2 units being built solely in one structure, right? We usually see 5+ when we're talking about townhouses. So I think that initial use lot split conversation gets confused when we get to that number, and then there's easements, there's shared agreements, and there's usually some type of legal HOA. So,
but your intent is to sell all 3, right?
At least the 2 new ones for now. The other one is once again occupied by a tenant. We don't have any present plan to change that.
I have a question. To Adam or Shannon, could you remind me, does the townhome code or some other regulation require homeowner association, some common area for situations? Adam, this reminds me almost of the side-by-sides we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
I have a set of streets that is basically this condition, but there's no common ownership or HOA, so we're running into issues with building maintenance of 2 property owners not you need both of them to fix the roof and one of them doesn't want to. So I want to make sure that situations are in place to prevent what I'm experiencing from happening 50 years from now in situations like this.
Yeah, just like
I can.
oh yeah, go for it, Jen.
So the code itself doesn't require the civil agreements of HOA, but generally you all have included it as a condition of approvals in the past in terms of like an access easement to be on record with staff or the city as a condition of some of the approvals. So the code itself does not require it, but you all are more than able to add that as a condition.
Okay.
And actually, we've included it when the lot split comes.
Okay, so I would thank you for that, Shannon. We should follow suit on that with this one, but I think we should explore codifying that. So what I just for you guys, what I experienced was both sides of one structure were condemned, and it was challenging for the city to demolish it because we couldn't condemn half of the building, but there wasn't like a firewall or anything. It was sort of an all or nothing. And there's entire streets like this. So it's clearly no one thought about this when they were built post-war, but I want to think about it now. So.
So let's note that also for this specifically when we're going to see the lot split back as well. But amend your motion.
Sure. Okay. I would like to amend my motion to include the approval of the conditional use as presented with the following caveats that the applicant follow all the protocols and procedures available to them to properly split the lots. Also, that they include a homeowners association agreement that deals with covenants such as trash, maintenance, and egress and access into the property.
Second.
Motion and a second, just one comment. Some people have used versus an HOA that an easement structure and all that, but so I think, is there a flexibility in how they do that? Because an HOA versus, let's say, like setting up a homeowner's insurance is very cumbersome versus we've allowed people to do it in the.
I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to even go there. I don't know, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I can't speak to that.
So Shannon, we have not required HOAs. We've required that the director, before she signs off, sees in the lot split the kind of access and other agreements, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So I don't think we can actually require the HOA. But you can require them to show the access and easement and something, basically affirming shared maintenance and shared space for the parking.
Okay. So
or driveway.
Yeah, I would say we need to see what's required, but we can't require an HOA.
I know, but whatever that document is, I will amend my motion to include whatever vehicle necessary to enforce trash collection maintenance between the two property owners in question here.
Who made the second?
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Booker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
McRae Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, so we'll see you back for the lot split. Thank you. Sorry for the confusion on our end. Just getting it right for you. So next item is actually a lot split. Permit parcel number 004-19-238. This is at 2373 West 7th Street. Is Todd Berger here to speak to this?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Sorry, I'd like to be there present, but I had to take my kids to school this morning, so I wasn't able to do it all. Good morning, everyone. Do you have my slide deck or am I? Oh, you do. Okay, great. So my name is Todd Berger. I am a current resident with my wife and 2 children in Tremont. We've been here for going on 16 years now. We purchased this empty lot, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 years ago with the intent to build a home on it. And we were going to move from our current home to down the street. However, with the cost started to get out of control, and we found a house that was for sale already built in the neighborhood. And so we changed plans. And so currently there is nothing built on this lot. This is Lot B in question. The way it's set up right now, it's both Lot A and Lot B were merged, and that is something that we did as owners. We own Lot A and Lot B, and we worked through the city and all the appropriate channels to merge those two lots. So now you see, if you go back one slide, you can see there you go, and you can see how the lot is now consolidated that way. We went through all the proper channels to do that. Now with the change in our current plans, we are going to split this lot to return it back to the exact same way it was before, because we want to retain, if you could change the next slide, please. We want to retain Lot A because we own Lot A outright. And then there's a home you can see to the left of that purple outline. That's a separate lot. We own that home there. We're renovating it to be a rental, and potentially maybe even for an in-law as people get in-law suite as our parents start to age and want to get closer to their children. So the reason why I'm here today is because I'm working with McSteen surveyors, and they noted something, that there was a particular zoning issue or something that's maybe a compulsory review by the board here. And I think it is triggered by the fact that the lot in the red outline here has a facing, it has a frontage that is maybe 42 feet. And I see here that it says that you must get a variance if it has less than 40 feet frontage, I guess. And I think it's actually 38, is that now that I think of it. So that it seems to be that it's some sort of compulsory review here. So I'm just trying to do what's right here and go through the proper channels. And again, all we're trying to do is put it back the way it was, because it's going to be easier to sell as a single lot. And also, like I mentioned before, we want to keep Lot A to use as green space for that home that we're renovating there.
I have a question.
Yes.
Will you be consolidating Lot A with the other parcel? Because we can't create a flag parcel, period. So even though it's going back the way it was, A needs to be consolidated with the other lot, which isn't shown here. There's no access to Lot A.
There is actually. So right along, so the back there is an alleyway. And so all of those sorry? Yes, right up there. As you see at the top of the page, that street is an access street there. So yeah, that's not a landlocked
it's not.
street
It's
at all.
not a landlocked.
Yeah, and I would like to keep them separate. They were separate before, and so they were separate parcels. They had a common owner, and I purchased them from the common owner. Just like to keep them separate.
Okay. And which is on this lot, which is the other one you own? Go back. You own the one to the left of it, basically?
Yeah, Lot A. You see that purple outline?
Yeah, you own a house to the left of it.
Yes, that house you see in the right with the white Tyvek there. It's now got siding on it because it was really in bad shape. So we gutted that thing almost down to the foundation and rehabbed it and put an addition on it and all of that, and working through the city with all the necessary things there. But yeah, just trying to separate it and put it back the way it was to help facilitate the sale. That's all.
Got it. Okay.
Madam Chair, one question. Could it be a recommendation to the owner that maybe Lot B be split as well, maybe 3 parcels? I'm thinking that, if Lot B is as long, depending on where, that future building would go, we'd have not vacancy, but a really long backyard, maybe common architectural footprint on both sides of the parcel might be nice for the neighborhood, but so.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that. Yeah, I would like to leave that for the new buyer. Lot B has been this way for, for as long as records can show. I suppose that the new buyer would do something similar, as you see to the right there, where you see it kind of chunked up, where you have a house in the back and a house in the front. With, I think the complication there would be how do you get, to either of those? What happens into that in between space there? I'm not really sure what you do with it because you would have to then have essentially, I guess, I don't know what the house would look like on the back end of that lot B, because where would you put the garage? How do you swing around there? Is the garage underneath it? It kind of calls into a lot of questions that I'd rather, let the new buyer kind of understand that and work through the city, to kind of deal with all that. And I would suspect that, if a new buyer is trying to make, some sort of massive, some issue with that, that the neighborhood would obviously take issue with it if they were to either overbuild or underbuild on that lot, I guess.
Lots of this house. That's one.
Any other questions?
No.
A motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the lot split as presently presented today.
Second. Motion and a second. Call the roll. Erica.
Hampton.
Yes.
Fluker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
McRae Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Spike.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Design Review Northeast Design Review District 2023-029. Stephen House School Site Development. This is conceptual approval at 1000 Lakeview Road. We have Jesse and others here to present. I need to swear anyone who's going to speak to this in, if you're online. So Jesse, anyone else besides you, Jesse?
I think most of the rest of the team is listening in. I'm trying to see if Michael Bowen, the owner's rep, is on. I don't see him on, so it should just be me.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. So we're at a conceptual level for the Stephen E. Howe school site. The school is currently demolished. Our project is kind of going to be broken down into phases. However, this presentation will focus on phase one, which we're calling just the townhomes. We go to the next slide. So that's what the site currently looks like. I believe that one multi-building to the left there has been demolished. If you go to the next slide, please, so we can see the parcels we're looking at. In addition to the Stephen Howe school site parcel, we're also looking at acquiring 3 parcels on Ada Avenue, as well as some parcels on Lynn Drive to the left. And then these would be consolidated or kept into 2 separate lots. I'll talk a little bit about why they'd be 2 separate lots in a second. As you can see, the Ada Avenue properties are a zoned differently as 2-family zoning, so we don't want to merge that into the rest of our site. So we keep 1 parcel for the top part that connects to Lynn, Lakeview Road, and then the 3 Ada parcels will be a separate lot. And these are all acquiring land bank lots as well that are already vacant. Next slide, please. Here's a little bit more information on the parcels and land bank lots. You'll see the gray rectangles around the site represent what we're calling phase 2, which is the single family homes, which you'll see for reference, but that will be discussed more in future presentations. Next slide, please. Here's a quick overview of the proposed development. It looks like this one's a little, can you go to the next slide, please? Looks like this presentation is a little out of date. I don't think this is the one that we presented to the Northeast Design Review Board last week. This is from over a year ago. Do you know if there's a more up-to-date presentation? The one that we presented to the Northeast Design Review Board?
Yeah, that should be the one that's in the
Our unit mix and just kind of the site development is quite a bit different than what we're showing here.
It might be later in the slides too.
Yeah, we have more developed renderings. If permissible, I could share my screen with the presentation we shared in December to the Northeast Design Review Board.
I don't think we can.
can't.
I don't know.
Can you do that? The councilman's asking if he emails it. Could we see this a little later in the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. So how about this, Jesse? I apologize. Can you email the presentation to the staff here, and we're going to go on to the agenda, and then we'll come back to it once they can pull it up. Is that okay?
Sure. Is that specifically Ariel? Who specifically?
Xavier's sending an email right now for
okay,
where
great.
to send it. Okay. So we actually need to make a motion to postpone, or we can just wait?
We're following Robert's order, then we have a motion to table.
To table.
Since we're in this.
We're in this session. Okay. Can I have a motion to table?
Second.
And a second. Call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Ray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. So we'll call you back in a second. Just hold on. So the next item is the also in Northeast. It's the Huff Community Green Space, seeking final approval. Director Fluker is going to need to recuse himself. Okay. Oh, Andrew. So 2 people. We still have a quorum. This is at 1596 East 86th Street. Alex is here from City Architecture. Anyone else? No. Do you swear?
I don't know if Isaac or anyone from Western River Land Conservancy
okay.
called in.
So do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Isaac, would you like to kick us off, please?
Absolutely. Good morning, Madam Chair and the rest of the Planning Commission. My name is Isaac Robb with Western Reserve Land Conservancy, and we're here to present the Huff Community Green Space. This project originated with the CMSD and City of Cleveland joint venture to put out to RFQ a lot of the underutilized former CMSD sites. This is the site of the former John W. Raper School in the Huff neighborhood. The site has already been demolished, so this is vacant land. After having preliminary conversations with then the then councilperson and now Councilwoman Stephanie House, we decided to go after this property as part of the green space expansion in conjunction with Thurgood Marshall Recreation Center. This aligns with previous planning efforts initiated by Mikos Foundation and was wholly supported by both the former and current councilperson in this ward. We applied and were successful in the RFP process, and we applied through the Clean Ohio Green Space Conservation Fund to acquire this property and have been in fundraising ever since. We initially worked with some community members to do some design charrettes on site. We were partnering with Village Family Farm, Little Africa Food Co-op, as well as the rec center in the city of Cleveland on the design process. We then went to work with the Cornell planning master students to have a design studio to refine some of those preliminary ideas. And after we got conceptual designs through that pro bono work of the student group, partnered with City Architecture to take it through a more formalized design process, which we are going to present here today. So with that, I would like to hand it over to Alex with City Architecture.
Thanks, Isaac, and good morning, commission members. Happy New Year. As Isaac mentioned, there's been an exhaustive and kind of ongoing community engagement process with this initiative, and so we're really excited to kind of bring it to this stage of development and design. I do believe I checked the wrong box when we made the application and would prefer a schematic approval rather than final. Of course, we will take final if the commission so sees fit, but just wanted to kind of reset and kind of recalibrate before we go all the way through. So as Isaac mentioned, the site is just north of the Huff Multipurpose Center and the Thurgood Marshall Recreation Center. It's outlined on the screen here in the magenta color. We'll spend a little bit more time with that. As you would imagine, the neighborhood has gone through a lot of changes. I think the big, large milestone that we would say is that kind of in that middle bottom picture is when the school was demolished. That was about 10 years ago. So this has been a vacant, open property since then. It's all turf, it's all grass now. You'll see some existing conditions photographs as we move through the space. Isaac outlined beautifully kind of the community engagement that goes all the way back to 21, that extended through last year, the Cornell work. And then last year, as the concept started to gain a little bit more reality and started to have that overlay of technical documentation, went back to the community to make sure that the design was still kind of congruent and consistent with what the community had asked for and kind of shared with thus far. So the site just north of the tennis courts on the left side of the page is East 85th Street. On the right-hand side, the street that kind of gets cut off is East 86, and to the bottom, the dead ends into the tennis courts is Linwood. So just to the west of this, Linwood isn't continuous, but Linwood does connect all the way back to historic Lee. The idea here was to take this underutilized property and turn it into a passive green space with a natural landscape for the community. With the recreation center just to the south, wanted to tie in key circulation moments and connections, but understanding that the recreation that happens there is very active and it's very programmed. What's missing, or what part of what's missing from the neighborhood, is a natural park scape. You can see that there's a lot of pavement. We want to eliminate or reduce as much of that as humanly possible while retaining the right amount of circulation. There's maintenance paths that we've coordinated with the city of Cleveland that operates the rec center, and obviously folks that are within the multi-purpose center to make sure that the site still works kind of in its final condition. A lot of grass, there's circulation, there's sidewalks that are around the outside. Some of the adjacent use are kind of winding pathways. We think that that top right photograph is super interesting. If you spend time there, it looks like it was an old bicycle kind of BMX pump track that was there before. That was really something that was part of the city's recreation amenities. You can see kind of the tennis courts that are just to the south of the site. And then this is really kind of the center of the site. It's about 2 acres, all grass, relatively flat. There's a little bit of grade change, but not a lot. And really just a blank canvas and palette for the design to take advantage of. Part of our analysis is looking at sun angles and making sure that the space is comfortable when we kind of get to the design aspect of it. And our design concept is this, and I apologize, we rotated the page 90 degrees, but so just to kind of landmark on the right-hand side is are the tennis courts. Thurgood Marshall Rec Center is kind of page top right, and Huff Multipurpose is to the right. So due north is page left. The site regreens or retains as much of the green as possible, provides a couple walking trails and paths and loops that we heard from community members as far as fitness, trails and loops and amenities that can help support that. And then a series of program spaces or playground spaces that are designed really for different age groups, and then a pavilion that could become activated with kind of a band or a community event or something along those lines. These are all programs, these are all uses that we've heard consistently through the community engagement process, and of course a picnic area, picnic grove, that's kind of on the page right of this. We've been very intentional about where trees and landscaping are placed. I wanted to make sure that the space is as comfortable as possible, while also maintaining open sight lines to make sure that the space also feels safe for all that are welcome to use it. The landscape material in the palette is very rich, so that there's seasonal interest around the year, but a series of different ground covers at key moments. We can't go crazy with it, but at key moments where folks are going to be kind of closest to it. The balance of the site kind of in that light green would be grass turf, so that it can be programmed for events and just kind of open. So we kind of consider, using this as a movie night or, like I said, like a small gathering that can be used for to serve the neighborhood. The pavilion that is kind of in the center of the site is something that can provide a little bit additional structure and shade and shelter. Really think of this as kind of the epicenter of programming. So if you imagine there's a small band or if there's a DJ that's in this space, they would be under that pavilion, and that pavilion then opens up to the great lawn where folks could kind of congregate and be part of the event. Behind that is the picnic area. I'll spend some time on that in a second. The path that goes around is a 12-foot wide path. We really tried to narrow that up as much as possible. And what we've done from a visual standpoint is kind of on the inside 6 feet of that, so in the diagram in that tan color, having a very textured concrete material that kind of says slow down, this is where people are. So this is where it kind of transitions from circulation and the walking and fitness path around the perimeter into those interior spaces. That's also where some of the site amenities and benches and seating are too. So we wanted that textural change to kind of give that cue. And then around the perimeter is just a standard concrete sidewalk. Underneath all of the play surfaces, working with the city of Cleveland and kind of the standards that are coming out of MOCAP, underneath the play surfaces are kind of that spongy, rubberized material, pulling in some of the colors that are consistent with Western Reserve Land Conservancy's branding and kind of their mark. So that'll be some of the paving or some of the rubber-based material underneath those play areas. Oops, not too quick. The site is rich with amenities, so multiple seating areas and multiple seating options. The aesthetic that we've kind of selected is something that is chunky and feels a little bit more natural. So natural wood, we're looking at Ipe, we're looking at other kind of materials over there. Grills, what we've kind of pushed and we've heard from the community is, I know that it might sound a little trivial, but grills with covers. So the fact that the grill can actually close as people use the barbecue, that is something that is not really seen in the city of Cleveland. And that makes a big difference as far as how people can use the space. And so there's genuine excitement about covered grills in a public park, which I think is pretty incredible. And then a series of seating that kind of goes around the path and is sprinkled throughout. Picnic tables, picnic benches. We're very intentional about which benches have backs, which ones don't. So you can look into the park, you can look kind of around the perimeter of the park if there's mom, dad, grandparents with little ones, just provide some flexibility for seating that's there. Around, you'll see some images that are here. These are not example images. These are the actual playground equipment that is being proposed to be installed here. So we went with and selected what we would consider more of a natural playscape that doesn't look like the kind of bold primary colors that you would expect from a typical playground. So again, kind of fitting into that natural space and landscape that has been designed. We think that these can be absolutely beautiful and provide visual interest even when it's not full of people that are using it. So there's kind of really 3 age categories or uses that we've focused around. So on page left, the adult fitness trail. So along the top or page, I'll go back to the site plan, but there's a secondary path kind of fully to the north that has some of the exercise equipment that's there, some of the exercise pieces that are there. The adventure play area, so think of that as early teens, maybe late, think of that between 10 and 14, 15 years old. And then the toddler play area is really the kind of the smaller kiddos that are going to use that. But all of it is themed from a natural standpoint and really excited to bring those pieces of equipment into kind of that recreational side, working with Jim McKnight, Jay, with the city of Cleveland to make sure that we get it right. You can see what some of those things might look like. Lighting and safety and security, as you can imagine, has been a big concern and desire from the community. So there are light fixtures that ring the entire fitness or the walking trail. We are going with obviously a dark sky initiative and LED luminaire, but to really emphasize that this is a natural landscape, a really, I think, beautiful wood pole from structure. So it's not a typical kind of metal black pole that you would see in a lot of the parks. It's something that fits in a little bit more with the aesthetic. And the lighting levels all achieve what we needed to achieve from a safety and security standpoint. We did study additional fixtures kind of in the middle of the green space and really landed that we didn't need it in order to provide the proper amount of illumination. So very excited to hear comments, obviously very excited to help deliver this to the residents with the residents of Huff. They've been asking for this. They've been engaged with this for a very long time. And just been thrilled to continue to collaborate with them, WRLC, City of Cleveland, and everybody else that has helped kind of bring us to this point. Thank you.
Commission members, any questions? I have 2 just technical questions. Will West Windsor Land Conservancy own the site after it's complete and maintain it?
I'm gonna defer to Isaac on that. Isaac, did you get the question?
Yes, Madam Chair. The Land Conservancy currently owns the property in fee, but the intent is to transfer the property to the city of Cleveland for long-term ownership and maintenance, which is why Jim and Jay from MOCAP have been so critical in the design process.
Okay. And so this will become a city park? It will become a city.
I can't speak to the designation, but yes, it will be a city green space asset.
Okay. And the particular funding to build this is West Windsor Land Conservancy?
Correct.
Okay. I think it would be important when you come back in for final to bring someone from the city with you who's, you know, speaking to the kind of long-term ownership and maintenance of this. So I know that we're going to do schematic, but I just think it's important to understand that I know you're working in partnership and know that this is a great project for the city, but just to really understand the partnership and have that clearly spelled out for us in terms of the long-term maintenance and how this fits. I know we're going to see the Parks Master Plan, so hopefully this is in there. Is it?
I don't know.
That's a problem too. It ought to be. I'm going to assume it is. Is it?
To increase?
No, we're going to see later in the agenda the Parks Master Plan. Is this in it?
No, this is not in it.
Okay, that's
components of this.
What? Like, how is that possible?
Components of it?
No, that in the citywide Parks Master Plan that we're going to see that this hasn't been identified in it.
The vacant space.
Madam Chair, this is Joyce Wong. I was able to join. The Parks and Rec presentation later today is a community engagement update since it's only halfway through the process right now. And so we have not yet presented the kind of total concept and strategy around the green spaces. We will make sure that this is looped into that process. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. My question.
Madam Chair, I'm really excited about this project. I think it's going to be really great for the community. And I was concerned also about the maintenance of the property and the questions asked. I'd like to make a motion, if that's possible. I'd like to make a motion to approve for schematic approval for the Hunt Community Green Space.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other comments? It was a fabulous project. I think kind of the full integration for me in terms of like where the city is heading is, I know that's not for you guys, but for me, it's just really important. Especially as for me, this maybe raises the bar in terms of planning and is obviously going to require a different kind of maintenance than that I'm sure is also going to be part of the Parks Master Plan. I mean, there's so much about it that, so I know you'll be back and I think bring MOCAP with you.
Well, absolutely. I'll put them in the hot seat.
Yes, there you go. Put MOCAP there. All right, call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Gray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Well, how soon do you think you'll be back?
Probably put in about a month and a half or so. Pretty quickly.
Oh, good. We can bring them back in for the next item. Should we go back? Are we ready, or do you want to keep going forward?
I think we have now the most recent presentation.
Okay, so we'll go back. Jesse, if you're here to 1000 Lakeview Road, I don't need to swear you back in again, but we will be back on the conceptual approval of the Stephen Howe school site.
All right, thank you. Yep, I'm still here and I'm ready to go. Okay, so this is a little bit more accurate representation on the cover sheet here in terms of phase 1 and phase 2. The parcels we're looking at still stays the same. land area we're taking up. There is one private property that would be acquired for the site development here. Just a note, so I think it's most of the land banks except for one parcel that'd be considered private. Next slide, please. This is just kind of a amenities map for reference on the neighborhood, Glenville High School up to the north, and some of the amenities down to the south on the main avenue. Next slide, please. Some additional amenities and resources near the site. Next slide, please. 500-mile radius. This is more for our funding application. Next slide, please. All right. So this is the proposed site plan at the moment. All the pink single-family houses you see around the site, those are what we're considering phase 2. We just had that in here for reference. This project will focus on phase 1, which is the light blue and lighter red buildings in the middle. The townhomes will feature 3-bedroom units, 2-bedroom units, and then some units with ADA accessibility on the first floor, which will include a bedroom and bathroom on the first floor and bedrooms on the second floor. We are creating a private roadway connecting Lynn Drive and Lakeview Road. Right now it's tentatively called Howe Drive. Again, it's a private road, and our townhomes are organized perpendicular to that road. And our parking is behind the units on kind of what we call the muse style type of parking behind the units. They curve a little bit just to give us a little bit extra green space and breathing room and allow us to manipulate the townhome buildings, allow us to push them in and out to create a little bit more dynamics on the elevations of each of the buildings, which you'll see in the presentation. We got some great comments back from Northeast Design Review Board. So some of the things that we'll look to address design-wise is better connectivity between the sidewalks across the site between Lynn and Lakeview Road, and as well as maybe relooking at the organization of the middle green space off of Howe Drive. Next slide, please. So here's a more enlarged site plan here. In the middle green space of the Howe Drive, we're looking at adding a pavilion, community gardens, and then also I think we've already started talking with Ohio History about getting a Ohio History marker placed at that location to kind of describe the history of the Stephen E. Howe School and the civil rights movement, the sacrifice that was made on the site. So we want to acknowledge that history as well. As we mentioned, we have a 1.5 to 1 parking ratio. So for 1 unit, we have 1.5 parking spaces behind the buildings. We're breaking up the length of the parking spaces with some tree islands, bike parking, do a thing just so we don't have a long run, and we're trying to make sure we distribute the parking equally behind the townhome units on the site. Next slide, please. Here's generally a section we're looking at through the muse, just to kind of get a sense of the idea of the distance between the buildings. We want to incorporate as much greenery in the parking lot as possible. The muse we're looking at will be a pervious surface like a brick pavers to help with our stormwater management on the site, since it's mostly a greenfield site at the moment. The rear of the buildings will have a slab on grade patio with steps walking up to the back of the unit, which will lead you into the kitchen of the units. And then the front doors will be on the front of the buildings, there'll be a stoop and a porch elevated from the site grade. Next slide, please. These are some of our conceptual plants and trees that we're looking at right now that we'll continue to update as we develop the site plan further. Next slide, please. And some more landscaping materials that we're considering for our proposal. Next slide, please. Society amenities, so we do plan on incorporating some bollards and pedestrian scale lighting specifically around the sidewalks and in that middle green space. Plenty of bike parking in the parking lots as well. Next slide, please. Here are some street elevations. The bottom one is of Lakeview Road. So we're keeping everything at 2 stories. A variety of, all the units will have a covered front porch facing the main front street. And then as you can see down the side, the Howe Drive elevation, you can kind of see the the spacing between each row of townhomes, and then Lynn Drive elevation as well. Again, keeping 2 stories, trying to keep within the context of the existing single-family homes around the site. Next slide, please. We can kind of go through these quick. These are some of each of our building types. You can see where we jog in and out of the buildings. Each unit gets a patio in the back and then a porch in the front that's covered. We'll be mixing in materials of brick and siding on each of the units. You can go to the next slide, please. Our duplex option, which is faced on Ada Avenue. Next slide, please. More elevations. Next slide, please. There should be some material boards coming up. Next slide, please. Another building. Some of our enlarged units, again, kitchen on the first floor, and we'll work on developing accessible units that have a bedroom on the first floor as well. Next slide, please. Here's our color palettes we're looking at for this conceptual review. So we want to pull in masonry that's provides a inspiration to the Faith Assembly Church that's adjacent to the site. We're looking at doing some traditional lap siding in 3 different colors, and also looking to add in some more detailed fiber cement type of siding on the gables. Asphalt shingle roofs. Next slide, please. Here's a bird's eye view of the proposed development. As you can see, the townhomes are kind of pushed in and out from the building to create a little bit more, intrigue along the street fronts, covered from porches. And we can see we do some full height brick in certain areas to break up the colors. Each building will have one of the 3 color schemes in terms of the siding associated with each one of them. Next slide, please. There's an aerial view at the main green space with the Ohio history marker, community gardens, and the pavilion. I think one of the comments we got back from the design review board is possibly moving the pavilion back and working more with the community gardens towards the back of the site, or back of the green space, sorry. Next slide, please. Street view, this was off of Lynn Drive of one of the proposed townhome units. Next slide, please. This is of Lakeview Road. So the brick pavement along Lakeview Road stays the same. And then we set back our buildings from the existing sidewalk there. Next slide, please. This is a bird's eye view of the Muse area in the back, where we look to break up the parking with tree islands, bike parking, and we're going to look at some additional amenities as well back there, or just different ways to break up the parking so it doesn't feel so so large. Next slide, please. An eye level view of the center green space. Next slide, please. This is from the back of the green space looking towards the pavilion and our new proposed Howe Drive. Next slide, please. And then this is a view looking into the parking area. We want to build these half walls to help obscure and hide the parking behind the units, as well as provide additional landscaping. And also, as we explore further the site plan, how we handle garbage collection as well. Next slide, please. That's the last slide. So that's the end of the presentation. I know I went a little fast. So if there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
Go ahead.
A couple questions and observations. Is this fee simple or is it rental?
Rental for the phase 1.
Could we go to the site plan? I have some concerns about how walkable. I think might think about creating some more paths, sort of like that traverses the site to connect everyone to that green space. That doesn't happen now. I don't know if you could break, these are pretty long buildings. If you could break the buildings and create paths so that people who live on sort of the outskirts or the ends could actually sort of filter in and walk. I just think that there's a disconnect. I see the one path there, but I think you could do a better job at connecting people to place.
I agree with that. I think that's something we definitely need to look at further, specifically between Lynn Drive and Lakeview Road. So I definitely agree that's something we need to explore further.
I agree with that. I have one other, I know this is conceptual approval, which is good. And I actually really like the intentionality to create front porches both onto the streets and into the green space that are really usable. But I want to just challenge you a little bit as you go from conceptual, because I think conceptually it is really nice, and I'm a really big fan of eyes on the streets, and people use their front porches, and there's a front porch culture, especially in Glenville, and it's awesome. But I think the design of the front porches, if you were to go to one of the renderings, I think they need, I'm not going to be specific enough, but I think they just need to be more special and not really look like spaces that you're going to hang out and sit on your front porch, which is really what's wonderful about Glenville. As you've got a lot of these homes that have these great front porches. I go sit on India Kersley's front porch for a really long time, but the porch is, and these just feel like they need some work in terms of sort of, let's say, the column sizes, the sort of size specialness of them. And I even love that since these are rental that you're doing this, I think it's going to be quite nice. And also just to think about maybe separating them might help a little bit because it is rental. So I'm not going to dictate how to do this, but I love them. I want you to keep them. I want you to enhance them. I want them to really work for the kind of front porches that will make the spaces more alive and safe. So that's my only comment as you come back.
Thank you.
Yeah. Towards the northeast corner of the site, there's sort of an unofficial historical plaque in front of the tree that commemorates, this is the school where a black reverend was crushed by a bulldozer, and there were protesters trying to protest against school integration. I would like for us to explore that. So it's not like an official historical state of Ohio plaque. I think it's something put up by the community. But if that tree was planted kind of coinciding with that designation of that memorial, I think it would be problematic for us to lose the tree. But it seems like it's pretty, like it would be in the front yard or conflict with the structure towards the northeast corner. So if we could just kind of consider that, I think that that'd be important for the history of the site.
Yeah, we'll take a further look at that. I know can't speak to all the details we're at the Ohio history, but I know they are very interested in providing a plaque for this site. So we'll look at we'll study that location a little bit more in detail.
Sure, yeah, and an official state of Ohio plaque, I think, is a worthy cause. I would just, if people so many years ago planted a tree in memoriam, I would not want us to, in error, remove that tree, unless there's absolutely no other option, which I don't think would be the case.
Or would you be open to the idea that, because it's a great idea, is to make the public space, the central public space, actually fully celebrate that history? And I don't know if you can ever move a tree, but like that it's actually the centerpiece of that public space, so that everybody who comes there knows the story and the history of the site would be amazing.
Yeah, I guess broaden it out to how do we kind of curate that public space and that historical experience. I think it's an important Cleveland story. I know that there's like the Mount Pleasant like Civil Rights Trail. I don't know if that's I should know this if that's expanded other neighborhood, but if there's like markers around Cleveland telling our Cleveland story and civil rights, like this is a key site, I think. So I want to make sure we're thoughtful about that.
Yeah, I agree. It would be amazing if this became part of that trail and people could come to that public space and you could experience it and it was well understood.
One other thought concerning that green space, as you develop it, I think you need to make it more humanistic. Sometimes if you create spaces that feel too formal, they're not used passively. So I think as you develop this and figure out how people go to and fro, be more intentional about where benches might be, and not just sort of aggregate them around the plaque, but maybe have pause points in places where people can find respite or watch their kids or walk the dog. So I think you have an excellent opportunity, considering you have control of this entire block, to create a special place for the residents.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone want to take on a motion? Yes.
This item still is tabled, so we don't need to.
Oh, yes. Let's remove it from the table.
Let's start over.
No. Motion to.
Second.
Motion to remove from the table. A second,
Thanks,
call the
Michael.
roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Luker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. We have a motion of some sort.
Oh, Madam Chair, move to approve the conceptual design of the project as presented, with the caveat that they take heed in the comments that transpired herein.
Madam Chair, if I may, I can read some of those.
Yes, go ahead.
We need more walkways to the green space, or just need some more work separating some of the houses might be appropriate for that. Consider preservation of the tree and the historic site, and make the green space more convenient. That can be folded into your.
Yes, thank you.
I would just clarify, I think, not knowing if the tree is possible, I think we just want real full commemoration and integration of the history of the site into the plan.
I agree, Madam Chair.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second? Okay, call the roll. Take your time.
Okay, Anthony.
Yes.
Luker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Gray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, next item is we're going to East Design Review. It's Carnegie Food Hub signage. This is seeking final approval at 3915 Carnegie Avenue. It was approved, if you look, with a condition. And the condition was to figure out the art component more so than the signs. So you can explain that to us.
Yes, I'm Jim Briolo with North
Wait,
Coast.
I need to just swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall enter to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Jim Briolo with North Coast Sign and Writing, 310 North Broadway Street, Medina. And I know that previously there was some concern about a graphic that was painted on the building. And they, as it turns out, that graphic was here for it was painted 5 years ago. And it said Carnegie Food Hub on it, and it was done by the owners of Carnegie Food. So actually, since then, the entire building has been painted. And what we're proposing is a sign on the corner of the building, a blade sign, which is 2 foot by 4 foot. It says food pickup. And then we're going to have some panels on the front of the building that mirror on the front right side of the building, and you can look at the building, that mirror the windows on the left side. They're the same size. They're going to display the brands that Carnegie Food Hub provides. There's also a sign above the door, the center wall, to the right center of the building, which was there before. And then on the side facing east, there's going to be another smaller sign displaying the brands that Carnegie Food Hub provides. So I think the main concern was that graphic that did exist on the front of the building. And I know that they were concerned that it had some kind of cultural significance. Some of the members at the last meeting brought that up. But as I mentioned, it said Carnegie Food Hub, and it was painted by the owners 5 years ago. So it didn't really have any cultural significance. Those are all non-illuminated signs. The sign on the corner of the building isn't illuminated. The signs on the front and the sign are not illuminated. And the sign above the ball, the front window also is not illuminated.
Madam Chair, to the applicant, so the horizontal sign is going above in sort of the green frieze of the building? Oh, okay, I see.
I should say they're not internally illuminated. The signs on the front of the building on the right side have floodlights, which light the sidewalk as well as the signs.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So what was the conclusion about this, the Carnegie Food Hub, the lower part? Like what?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's a painted graphic.
I know, but
I forgot to mention.
What did they mean by figure it out more than the signs? I don't understand. Keep it, don't keep it? Like what's the, I don't know, what? Figure it out.
I wasn't.
Figure what out?
I wasn't in that meeting, Madam Chair.
What's that to happen in this meeting? Because hearing you show it as like text, right? Who's the staff person who was at the meeting?
Assistant staff. Oh, sorry. Reading the motion form explicitly.
While he's looking at that, by the way, I mean, I think it's better. I like the idea of the signs. I love this building on Carnegie, by the way.
They kept the basic elements of the building, like the glass block for the left of the storefront. It's really nice. It's curved. They just completely left that, and those windows on the left side is left. The only thing they really did to the building is different. Is painted.
Yeah,
right. It looks so
right.
nice and fresh.
The gray.
You know, I'm thinking that it's going to invite other businesses to open up near it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we actually just it's going to say, hey, listen, this is a nice place to have a business.
Okay, I get it now. I was a little confused, Madam Chair, to the applicant. Those bell-shaped things in the green, they're actually the photometrics of the light.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I was having problems with that graphic.
But it's the question I'm asking is, in what you're rendering now, you say Carnegie Food Hub. The sign that's on there, we're looking at the image, will go away.
Yes. Yes.
It's already gone. Oh, already gone.
Right.
Okay,
right.
I got it. Okay. So this is really old.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, to Michael, are there any variances, or is this just an approval for signs?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, no variances are as far as I know. No one's told.
Okay. Well, Madam Chair, I move to approve the signage as presented. I don't understand figure out the art component more so than the signs. I don't understand that, so I can't opine on it. So I'm just, my motion straight up.
Straight up motion. Can we have any other questions or comments? I call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Woodbury.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
McRae Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Spike.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay.
I'm curious, were those the food, like paninis, cilantro? Are those the actual ones that are going in the building?
Yes.
Okay. Good for you guys there, huh? Nearby. Look at that.
I know.
Thank you. Motion carried. Cilantro.
Thank you all very much.
Way better than other burritos. I won't name them. All right, next item is DF 2023-069 5 Iron Golf Blade sign. This is final approval in the flats, 1101 Euclid Avenue. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury? All right. Thank you.
We're here this morning for variance that our late sign we proposed to have high design review that is at 15 square feet, allowed in 12 square. The reason for the entry to allow us heading down east, heading east on Euclid Avenue to see it, the signs basically as they're passing East 9th. So we have a little bit more knowledge of where the location is. So they're not signage from East 9th, as well as a little bit across the street. The reason for being here, of course, is we're asking for 15 square feet, 3 more than we allocated as well.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I could also add on to this. Hi, my name is Xavier Bay, zoning planner and city planning. And you pretty much, you know, kept everything pretty well there. I'm just, you know, mentioning some of the formalities. So the Planning Commission has the ability to vary the sign code to create better design compatibility that meets our design guidelines and its minimal variation necessary. So basically, Commission can make recommendation to approve. As the gentleman mentioned, post signage is one identification projecting sign on Euclid Avenue. Well, the review that I did, I had 19 square feet for the projecting sign. And so businesses are only permitted 12 square feet. So the variance I got was 7 square feet that would be needed. And then I also just want to mention the previous approved signage. There was last year, it was a 31 square foot channel letter signage approved, and then a variance was given for 47 square feet because there was also 333 square feet of window signage. If you remember, yeah, you can see some of the color that's going on the windows there.
Xavier, one question. I see this photo. How high is the sign off the ground?
That's 11 feet. But actually, and I can correct here, the sign was changed at the request of design review. We're actually at 66 inches high at 32. And that's where that was the change that was made at the first design review. So we actually brought it down. That's how we got it down to the 15 square feet.
So it's a bit smaller.
Yeah, it was requested that we bring it down at least 10%.
So you have to make sure that you mentioned that in your motion, the 3 square feet.
Correct.
3.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve signage as presented with the 3 square foot variance required to cause the client to erect it.
I'll stop it.
A motion and a second. Any other comments? I'll just say it's a really nice sign. I feel like the design a lot.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I can't hit with my 5-iron.
Anthony.
Yes.
Luker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Ray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'm a big fan of blade signs. I think it adds life to cities.
I need to recuse myself on this next one.
Okay. So you'll have to, leave the table. So the next one is 2023-060 building renovation, seeking final approval at 1330 Old River Road. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. Project is 1330 Old River Road. State his name.
Oh, yes.
Name's Rick Bennis with the Argus Group Architects.
Okay, thank you.
Project is proposing renovation of a property at 1330 Old River Road, Flats. Just the property to the north of Settlers Landing Park. It's an existing building. built in the 60s, I believe. One of the oldest buildings in the city of Cleveland, I've been told. The existing tenants in the building, there's an existing restaurant that occupies partial lower level and the full main level. Above that, there's 2 levels of abandoned old, just general business use. And there's an attic space that is currently storing a lot of old documents and just business stuff that's left there. It's beginning found stuff 100 years old. Okay, go through the next slide. These are just all existing survey of the building. Lower level is basically this small gathering for the bar toward the riverside, which is to the right. And the rest is just restaurant, storage back at the restaurant equipment, just mechanical rooms. And to the left is actually a space that is built below the existing sidewalk over the road. So if you go through it, these are just the existing plans, existing bar space and restaurant on the main level. And then you go up from that, it's just old tenant office space, the next 2 levels. And the attic, the next level, is just a big open area. Not much headroom on the ends, but a lot of stuff. Go from there to the next slides are just elevations of the existing building. It's a masonry building, brick. Windows, there's this existing carriage style garage door. This is the Old River Road elevation, east elevation. Go to the next elevation. Next slide, that's the south elevation, which overlooks the Settlers Landing Park. And the lower gathering area by the river is down to the left. These are all existing conditions. Go to the next slide. This is the west elevation, the lake or the river view. Lower level is just the gathering space for the bar, and then second level is the restaurant, and above that is just existing office space. The building needs a little tender loving care. It's a lot of I guess there was a fire in there a couple of years back. There's some structural issues with the building that has to be all addressed to get it back to being more safe. These are all existing conditions in the building. Existing mural on the south side. You can see the streetscape with the awning for the restaurant. Just go on those next slides. These are just all existing shots of the building. This is a straight on east elevation view where we have the carriage doors. Since we are, what we're planning on the building is we're maintaining the restaurant in the main level here and the partial on the basement level. We want to turn the rest of the building into a single family residence. So we're planning on using that one carriage door there for one parking space that we're requesting. All the zoning, I think we're fine on all the zoning issues of the restaurant and the single family residence, but it's the parking that's contingent or it's conditional. So that's an issue that we can resolve whether we can do it or not. So this is just a view across the river, west looking east. You can see the the buildings to the left, the primary yellow, gray building in the blue, and then our brick building on the right. From that's just a view looking south behind some storage area to the buildings to the north of ours. That's the existing restaurant, lower level, and the restaurant deck above. And these are just existing site plan. We pretty much fill up the whole site plan, all property line to property. It's all built out right now. Okay. Next slide is what we're proposing. We went with PennDOT, which was streets and landscaping and sidewalks. And the one thing we're proposing is a new apron that will be used for our new garage entry. We have an existing fire hydrant that is close. We work with them, and they give us a recommendation how to protect that fire hydrant because our apron will not be meeting city standards. We felt pretty confident Next slide. These are just roughly depicting what we're using. This is the lowest basement level. The pink is what the residential is going to use for storage, mechanical, whatever. And the gray and yellow will be all the restaurant usage. Go up to the main level. It's all going to be, all the yellow is an existing restaurant we're going to try to maintain, and their deck space, which we will be enclosing now with some operable windows so they can open up some of that. And the pink is what residentially we want to use. So I have an entry right next to the restaurant entrance, which will go up to his unit, and then I'll have a garage right next to it, which he'll be using the freight elevator, some stairs down to the basement. Next slide. Next 3 slides are just going to be all the residential floors wide open. We're going to be cutting up a lot of the floors, get some interest and play from us inside the building. Next, 3rd level, same thing, just more space for him. Then up on the penthouse, we're going to rip the roof off the building. We're going to put a penthouse up top. But we're maintaining that the building, the new addition, is not going to go taller than the existing parapet. So from the front of the building, you will not even know that it's it'll just be from the west side of the building to the river that you'll see the new additions. Okay, on the next slide. This is, as you can see, the front cannot tell that the roof is being ripped off and the addition, because all the space will be back for the west side of the building. We're going to extend the awning. We're going to fix up some of the storefront that was filled in with some louvers and just boarded up. Not much in the lights. Lights will put maybe one little light above the carriage door and the overhead door. And that's it. We're probably extending on the overhead entry for the residential. To store the masonry has for the building. Next slide. South elevation. We're going to add 4 lights to that side just to get a little safety for that sidewalk going down to dress it up. There'll be low level lights. They might have some color change, but just to get a little playful with it. And rework some of the downspouts so it's not as crazy as it is on the existing building. We are just making the one window in the lower left-hand corner just to match above, because I think there's some structural issues or damage that they blocked in that window, most of it. We just want to balance it out. Next slide. This shows what we're doing on the bed. The majority of the work that you'll notice on the building, besides the restoration of the rest of it, will be on the west elevation. You'll see the lower level. We're closing that for the restaurant bar, and we're closing their top one. So that whole box will be closed with operable overhead doors that are kind of open, so we have so they can open it up in the summer. Then above that is all the residential units. The residential, we have a large terrace on that one level, nothing on the one above, and then up on the penthouse, they will have a small balcony up there to overlook the river and all the great views in the city. Next slide. Now, this is more of an aerial view to show how we're tucking that upper penthouse in the sitting area on both sides. There's a lot of outdoor areas up top, down below, and you can tell the materials got away from those primary colors on all the other buildings. And we're going with the Cortland steel on everything, so we can get a rusted look, so it's more industrial. The area that we're building, kind of matching the seawall or the river wall, just blending it in with everything. The mural is not getting repainted. It's just, we're going to just let it naturally age with time like it has. We worked all these things out with the landmarks or the flats. Yeah, the direction is. Okay, next slide. This is a view kind of looking southeast on the river, looking up at our building. Next slide. This is more of a nighttime scene to film the low level lighting. Not proposing too much. There is some street, some little park lighting on there, but we felt that that side of the building needed to be a little more, just to make it just not a black void. Next slide. These are just some examples of we were working with a design review in the flats, and they were fighting us a little bit on the balcony. We just show some examples of where their balconies in the area. They were fine with it after the last visit. So, next slide. And this is our building. On the left is existing, and on the right is what we're proposing. So, you know, it still blends in. It doesn't too outrageous of a statement, but we do want to make it a nice, you know, gathering area inside. So we did add a little more glass to it. Kept the same proportions, three-piece windows, but we just extended them up because there's a lot of some nice little quality that we want to create. Okay, these are just some of the materials we're using. We're going to stay with the dark window color if we feel like they need to be replaced, which I think they should probably be. But all the steel is going to be poured on the building. Those are our light fixtures that we're going to use. Pretty simple, industrial looking. So.
Can I see the site plan again? Just for me to... Is right there. And
the yellow is the existing sidewalk.
right. And the line on the other side, is that the actual river side?
The river, this thing's built almost right onto the river.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's not, this isn't for you to solve, but I'm just, it's not for you to solve, but it's
the same.
Yeah. It's my frustration with not having a continuous boardwalk, but there's nothing you can do about it here. So that's it. I just wanted to look at it. Yeah. There's no, this existing structure goes right to the edge, and still, I'm gonna stop. It's okay.
Two questions. How many units?
This one is a single family residence.
It's not a rental.
No.
The top level of the restaurant.
The main level, street level.
The street level, and there's a level above that.
It's all residential above it.
Is this the old Watermark?
No. Watermark's down.
Down.
Yeah.
It's right up against Settlers Landing.
Yeah.
There's an existing bar in there now, restaurant. We're trying to maintain the construction. They'll probably have to scale back quite a bit.
So I have a question. Does that existing restaurant go into that first floor space on the back?
It is the whole first floor and the lower part of the lower floor. So we're keeping it where it is. The only thing we're taking away from it is the garage.
Right.
Because they use the garage now for other reasons. Yeah. Some of their bathrooms.
Yeah, very frustrated. Right. I get back.
I guess the only thing that I see is conditional is that parking.
Yeah.
That one spot that's considered a parking garage.
Any other questions? Nice to see it getting renovated.
Yeah, nice adaptive reuse. Yeah. I wish that were my house.
Yeah, demo's nice pad.
You buy it.
Well, Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the presentation as presented. I don't believe design review had any comments. They approved unanimously.
We had a lot of comments at first review, and then we revised it all, and so we're happy.
Okay.
A second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Booker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Ray Scott.
Yes.
Sorry. Sargent.
Yes.
Slide.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. And we have a mandatory referral. This is for shared youth path along Marginal. Trevor. Very good. And this is just a mandatory referral, so I assume just you, right?
Are there others? Yeah.
There's a couple of us here.
Okay.
Chair, before Trevor begins, I would like to preface this by saying we thought this legislation would have been delivered to us by now, but it seems that it has not due to the holidays. And so currently we're receiving an unnumbered ordinance. And so this should be a request to have me administratively sign off on this legislation when we do receive it.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Trevor Hunt. I'm with the Cuyahoga County Department of Public Works. I'm here today to talk about now it's called the North Marginal Road Connector, a long-awaited project, probably been out there for a number of years, but formerly known as the Downtown Cleveland Lakefront Connector. And I also want to acknowledge our partners here today. So we have our lead engineer and consultant, Michael Baker. We have Joe Hogan and Michael Baker here with us. The Cleveland Metro Parks, we have Sarah Bergsmeyer. And then City of Cleveland, we have Katie Morgan with us. And not in attendance, NOACA, but they're a financial supporter. So without them participating, this wouldn't be plausible. So, as you may already be aware, this is along North Marginal, the north side of North Marginal from East 9th downtown all the way to East 55th Street. The map on the screen highlights the geography. So it's roughly 2.7 miles in length. Here's a couple context photos of what's out there currently. It's kind of a hodgepodge. So along certain portions of the roadway, you have kind of this side path. There's sharrows on road. In some portions, there's nothing, right? So sometimes you're pressed up right against the highway or right up against the fence on the north side for private property. And our purpose and need, this slide, I think, explains it all, right? If you're not coming by car or automobile, you're a non-motorized in non-motorized form, right? You're either by bicycle, by foot, by rollerblade. In this case, you're kind of forced to use the roadway. So the real purpose and need, I guess, is this grew out of a 2015 TLCI plan. At that time, it was called, as I mentioned, the Downtown Connector and Lakefront Greenway Study, and that was supported by NOACA at the time. Several CDCs at the time also supported it. As you know, this bisects several neighborhoods. So downtown on the west, and then St. Clair Superior to the east. And in 2021, the county took the lead, but in conjunction with the Cleveland Metro Parks, to really advance this project. So we've been at this for a couple of years. This is an ODOT project, locally led ODOT project, but was renamed at that time to the North Marginal Road Connector. And this is one of the initial concepts from that time, back in 2015. This is an image that is coming directly actually from the TLCI. So the properties involved here, the top portion of the screen, we're going to start on the western side. So as you're all familiar with, at East 9th, we have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then the North Coast Harbor. I believe the U.S. Coast Guard has an operation there. And then Burke Lakefront Airport takes up the majority of the site. And then on the bottom half of the screen, there's really 5 different property owners that we've been working with. 2 different yacht clubs, the Lakeside Yacht Club and the Forest City Yacht Club, Cleveland Public Power in between those, and then Sailing Incorporated. And then there's a residential structure on the far east end, which is known as the Shoreline Apartments. And then our partners, Cleveland Metro Parks, they manage the property just east of there. And this will tie into the existing trail that you can see highlighted there in green. Stakeholder engagement, we've been pretty robust throughout this time. I mentioned those 5 separate property owners to the east of Burke Lakefront Airport, but there's also been a number of other folks that we've engaged along the way, all highlighted here. We did send out public notification. I think we mailed over 300 letters in July of 2023, this past July. The county received about 10 responses then, just general questions, mostly supportive of this project. And then our roles, so the county, we were charged with the design and construction administration. The Cleveland Metro Parks, they're going to be in charge of operations and maintenance. And then City of Cleveland, obviously, you've been generous enough to work with us on the right-of-way issues here. And so really what will be different about the roadway than what's out there today? So as I mentioned, the big thing, right, is on the north side of the street with 2.7 miles of continuous shared use path. The roadway dimensions on North Marginal will shrink slightly, I believe, to 11 feet. I believe they're 12 feet currently. And there's portions of the road that will actually be shifted. We're kind of, it's a kind of a cattle chute out there, right? There's not too much room on either side. So you're kind of pressed up against limited access to the south of the highway. And then we have limited real estate to the north. So there's good news is there's no permanent takes. There are some temporary easements that we're asking for, some reconfiguration of some curb cuts, driveways, parking, and landscaping. And I think there's a couple renderings in here that we have as well. Yeah, there's two renderings here. The first is right in front of Berkeley Lakefront Airport on the western edge. So this gives you an idea. We're not losing any trees. Overall, actually, we're going to have to remove some, but overall, we're going to be planting more trees than what we're removing. There are, working with the FAA, there were some limitations with the height of trees, with the height of the lighting. So we've worked within those configurations and boundaries. And I think there's another rendering here. Yeah, this one's right in front of, I always draw a blank on the apartments, the lakefront shoreline apartments, thank you, Jim. Their fencing will be redone as part of this as well.
What's the dimension of the green space, the buffer?
It's 2 feet in this instance. There's some portions where there's a pinch point or two where we're directly right up on the road. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the landscape there. But for the most part, I think we have.
There's no parts where it's shared with the road, though. It's all trails.
No, it's all off road. And actually, the further, so on the previous slide, I think we actually we're about 5 or 6 feet here.
More than that, like 7.
Okay.
What is the typical dimension? It varies.
So the path for the most part is 10 feet. There's a couple instances where we're down to 8 feet at one specific pinch point. So, but that's allowed per ODOT. AASHTO doesn't recommend that, but given the specific barriers and constraints that we're tied into, that we've asked for an exception and we're granted that.
So is there any demarcation once in the rendering, like dash line or like directionality, or is it just paved?
I'll turn to Joe here.
There's a painted center line down the center.
And then I think there's a timeline too, just to share. We are getting close on this. This is why we're here, because it has to go before legislation. But the green line there indicates kind of where we're at today. Obviously, Happy New Year, everyone. Beginning of 2024. We are looking to bid this thing in February, hopefully, with construction beginning in June. We need federal authorization. As I mentioned, NOAC is a partner, so we have federal funding. So we need to get that tied up before we actually bid this thing. But it's moving and be hopefully shoveled in the ground later this year. So.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Great. Finally be here.
Yeah, we're excited.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Are the temporary easements under negotiation still, or are those in place?
Those are in place. Yes.
And the funding for this?
So yes, NOACA, and I'd be remiss if the Cleveland Metro Parks is generous enough to be granted part of the Mandel grant that they received.
What's the total cost?
It's slightly over 11 million. So 5 million are coming through the Metro Parks. I think we're going to be slightly over 6 million for NOACA's funding. And there's a minimal share that the county and city are contributing, but it's very minimal compared to our partners.
I draft motion to approve the podcast.
Second.
Motion and 2 seconds. You can choose
Madam Chair, I see Councilman McCormack is on. If he seems like he wants to make a comment before we move into the final roll call.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Thank you so much. I want to thank Mr. Hunt for this presentation. A part of this is in Ward 3. Fully support this project. Just 30 seconds of comments, Madam Chair. Number one, in addition to everyone that's been recognized, I want to recognize Bobby Richtel, who has since retired but was really integral in advancing this project. One of my first meetings I ever had on council was with her pushing this project. So I really want to recognize her work leading up till today. She was formerly with the campus district. The second thing, I think this is exciting because it also connects green spaces that are either online today or will be east of downtown into the downtown neighborhood as well. It also brings attention to the 400 acres of publicly owned land owned by the citizens that's reserved for private jets just north of it. So I think it's exciting that we'll be able to really continue to draw attention to that land and what future uses could be there, Madam Chair. A great project. The only question I have, Madam Chair, if I may, to Mr. Hunt, is in the areas where it is aligned with the road, is there a possibility to have delineators?
Councilman, you're talking specifically where there's the pinch point right up against.
That's right.
Okay, so that would be in front of Forest City Yacht Club. I'm going to refer to our engineering experts. I think there's certain expectations or parameters that we have to follow per AASHTO guidelines, and I know this was looked at, so I don't know.
Yeah, we looked at it, and I think in coordination with the city traffic, they asked us not to include them because of proximity to the road. Like, they become a hazard in themselves when they're there.
Okay, so my bigger concern around hazards are vehicles engaging. I mean, not flying delineators. That's been rhetoric at the city for like 20 years that the delineators are going to go airborne and kill people. I'm much more concerned about vehicles not understanding that it's a multi-purpose path and parking on it or driving on it. So that's my only feedback. But Madam Chair, again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Really exciting project. And again, I want to recognize Bobby, who was a really important part of this years ago when the planning was going on. Thank you so much.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. There is curbing. The curbing is pretty small right now.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sarah Brinsmeyer. The curbing is going to be replaced in that section as well. So there will be that separation that will help define the area. But it's pretty non-consistent right now, so that will be an improvement in itself.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Yes.
Hooker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Ray Scott.
Yes.
McKnight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you guys. We'll see you soon. All goes well. When do you think it'll be complete?
I think is it a 10-month construction timeline?
I think 24.
Okay.
Oh, 2 years.
2 years.
It's a long time.
I was getting it right.
That's a long time. 2 years. What? All right. We're gonna do the two public art presentations quickly, just so that we can allow people to leave. So first one is West 2nd Alley beautification. This is also in Councilman McCormack's ward, who's here. Who's here to present this? Yeah.
Alex Arnold, Destination Cleveland.
Okay. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
There was approved with a condition for lighting options to be, it says pursued. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, certainly. So this is a project, one of Destination Cleveland's beautification projects. We're hoping to execute before the big events of 2024. I've had several of these in front of you over the past couple of months. This one in particular is on a city-owned building just north of Public Square on a little alley. One of our interests is really improving these sort of secondary routes through downtown pedestrian ways. So you see it here. Thanks. between the standard building and 205 West St. Clair, which again is a city-owned building, some back office sort of stuff happens there, I suppose. Tax department, GIS, things like that. So a couple of views here from St. Clair looking down. As you can see, the part that touches St. Clair is a really narrow alley. It's a one-way from Public Square to St. Clair. And then looking in the reverse, at Public Square, that alley is a little bit wider in between 55 Public Square building and 75 Public Square building. It necks down when you get to the 205 building, which is that sort of 45-degree chamfered edge there. That's the city-owned building. East on St. Clair, you can see the convention center. This again is part of why Destination Cleveland is interested in this as a pedestrian path between the convention center and Public Square, and then looking west into the warehouse district. Context looking from the inside out, you can see the view from this alley out to Public Square. You get a really nice frame view of Terminal Tower, and you can see into the square itself. And then go back just a second. You see the 5. That's that view on the bottom looking down that little service alley that comes at that corner entrance of the 205 building. So the extent of what we're proposing here is a 1-story vinyl applied mural down the narrow part of the alley on this 205 West St. Clair building. A full height mural, same material, the applied vinyl, up that 45-degree chamfered wall that you can see from Public Square. And then to paint the pavement, this would be actual paint, not applied vinyl, in the narrow portion of the alley that's in between 205 and the stand. Materials, again, on the wall, it'd be that vinyl rough wrap. I had this one in front of you a couple months ago, the hot dog on 9th Street in Bolivar. Same material, same installer. This is a vinyl applied product. It gets essentially heat shrinked onto the building. Almost all of the public art done in the last 4 or 5 years in Lakewood has been applied by this company.
Is it West Camp?
What's that?
Is it West Camp?
It is Sherba. We've done work with West Camp as well. They're great. But Sherba Industries, they're out of Brunswick. They do incredible things with this heat applied rough wrap vinyl. So as you'll see when I show you the render, these are not full panels, but sort of individual abstract shapes. So we would cut those out individually, and we have the ability to custom cut them around, windows and pipes and cameras and any sort of obstruction. For the roadway itself, we use a Sherwin-Williams exterior traffic marking paint. This is what the Payne Avenue crosswalks were done with. So it's been approved through these bodies before and has held up pretty well over the past 2-3 years. So that's what we would use on the pavement surface. The design itself, talking again about this corner and the full height, you got these abstract shapes in 4 or 5 colors that go up the wall, just again to bring visual interest, sort of cue you that this is a place that you can walk, this is a place that a person can be. And then that design continues down the first floor of the 205 building. It doesn't lap over the curb, that's just a rendering error there. So the vinyl is on the brick of the building. Then that final panel of brick before you get to St. Clair Avenue, this you can see from the sidewalk walking past the standard building, has that tagline, the land for life. And then as far as that first story mural extends is where the painted pavement extends, which is essentially the narrow part of the alley between the standard and 205. So there's a lot of elements here. We're working with MoCap, with traffic, with public works in general on what that roadway application would be, how it happens, what the material is. Like I said, we've identified that, but how it all works, we're in process with them. Again, being a city-owned building, we're in process with the real estate office mayor's office, with the different divisions that work within that building to get their opinion. They asked that we come to design review and to you first, so that we would have an approved design, and then we could work out all of the installation staging details with them.
Who's the artist?
What's that?
Who's the artist?
This is a design that came out of AdCom, just using some of our brand materials. We use this tagline and we use this color scheme a lot in our out-of-market advertising. And so we said, you know, adapt this for us in something that's just abstract and could enliven an alley.
I mean, I love the idea of both the ground and the thing. I just wonder there's no meaning to this abstract form that goes up the building. It ought to be a little bit more. I don't mind things that are graphic. I don't mean it shouldn't be graphic, but just my opinion. I think there might be a bigger opportunity for the design to be a little bit more meaningful. Still colorful, still kind of abstract, but it just my opinion. But go ahead.
Madam Chair, I agree. I feel like the tagline feels a little disjointed. Like I didn't realize that was part of the mural. I thought that was there already. So maybe if there's a way to font wise or something integrate that so it feels more connected to the design, that would be my suggestion.
I mean, I guess the point is like it is a huge opportunity. It's a great project, personally. I love it.
Well,
I just don't love the design.
Madam Chair, I think the issue we're all having.
But we don't really rule the design, so there's a problem. Yeah. So I don't want to be like the artist, but there's no artist involved there. So then, go ahead.
Okay. The distinction I would like to make is I believe they're trying to live in two different worlds. This is like a branding opportunity, and it's trying to be public art, and it's not doing that great at either one of them. That's just my personal opinion.
I mean, is there an opportunity to just sort of like evolve or advance the design intent a little bit?
I think there's an opportunity. I mean, we certainly haven't printed the things yet. It has been through design review.
And they liked it?
With one exception, they did.
Lighting.
No, but I mean, from a design point of view.
Yes.
Except for one person?
Yes. I will come back to lighting. You prompted me to that and I missed it. We've already been in talks with the standard, talking about, you know, how this would impact them and installation and things like that. And we did approach them, and they've got the wall that you see on the left that you can't see going down. They installed additional lighting a few years ago. We asked if they'd be open to us upgrading that to get some more light onto this artwork and also into the alley through the nighttime hours, just to make it more functional. He said basically, as long as it doesn't glare up into our residence windows, you can do whatever you want. So we're exploring how to do that in an appropriate way to bring some more light onto the work and into this passageway.
Maybe not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but like the aggregation of forms is interesting. Potentially, if there was some like symbology maybe taken from the landmarks, and you know, if the orange is, you know, maybe some bridges or, you know, the face of a guardian, and those things are kind of sprinkled through that same navigation. It maybe would tie again into the land for life, like, you know, this is something of Cleveland as opposed to these kind of amorphous blobs.
Madam Chair, I'd like to think more globally. Also, I believe it's starting to approach or at least touch on the fact that we need to start thinking about how people move through this city, through public spaces, through streets, how we activate them, how do we get to the lakes, the waterfront, how do we use the malls. I think this is a bigger opportunity to be more intentional and come up with a campaign that starts addressing that, in part, obviously, but that's just my personal opinion. Again, I don't like commenting on art because it is an eye of the beholder, but I just think there's some opportunities that could be folded into this that make it more meaningful.
Mine isn't I guess the point I'm making is I'm not trying to critique the artwork. But you basically said the artwork has no meaning and it's graphical graphics. So if I'm just evaluating this on graphics, it's not public art, like from a content point of view. So graphically, I think it's not great. How's that? And it's a huge opportunity. And so I hate to see it wasted. It's okay. It's not like offensive, but I wonder if there's just a moment to go back to AdCom because I love the things that Destination Cleveland does that help to brand the city. And I'm not so sure this advances our brand, actually, honestly. Sure. It's very different than anything I've seen before, maybe except for the colors. And so for you guys to spend this money and to do this and it not to really advance our cool brands, I think if I were you all, I would take another look at it. And I think in the example I'll use is when I think about the work that Agnes Studio does, if you know them, I don't know if you know Agnes Studio, who's in Midtown, who's a graphics firm, but who when they go out and do murals, and they're graphic, they're meaningful and site specific and really advance the place. So I'm not saying we should make this motion because if you want to go build this, you guys can go build this, but I'm just making a suggestion that I would do something cooler. So that's not a motion.
Mention that you could say that this artwork was not particularly appropriate for this location.
Well, I don't want to say that that's not. I mean, I am one person with one opinion here about design. But is this appropriate for this site? Yes. From a placement point of view, round. Is it the right thing to do for this alley? Absolutely. Round and wall. Is the design not exceptional? That's what I mean.
Well, I think what I'm struggling with is we've had some wonderful murals before us through the course of this past year. And I feel like this is happening because it's the thing to do and it's not been thought out. That's just my opinion. It's been, okay, let's put some paint on the wall. And that's just how I feel.
I guess for me, would you be open to kind of going back for us not acting and not wait? I don't want us to come back in 2 weeks and say, absolutely, we want this to be, and we give you guys 2 weeks to go back and take our comments. And if you come back in 2 weeks and say, this is it, we want to move forward, I'd be okay with that. But would you be open to at least going back and saying, you got this feedback?
Yeah, no, I'm open to it. I mean, I'm representing the organization. The design stuff mostly comes out of our marketing arm, so I can certainly take that back to them and say, hey, here's what city planning said.
I think it's worth
happy
it
to do that.
As to postpone and give you 2 weeks. And if you want to come back with your design team and fight for this, then please bring them with you. Okay. How's that? You guys okay with that?
So I think the thing to do is postpone it. Madam Chair, that I move to postpone and allow the applicant to converse with his team.
Second. Motion in a second. Call the roll.
Anthony.
Yes.
Booker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Ray Scott.
Yes.
Knight.
Yes.
Starker.
Yes.
Slight.
Yes.
Motion carries. Know that you take back to them that we love the concept, the idea, the placement, the everything.
Oh yeah.
So
no,
like,
I get it.
we're not going to say no to the project. It's just the design. So
Procedural question then: if we did make material changes to the design, would we have to go back to design review?
no. Technically, you don't because they're advisory to us. So if you would like to, out of courtesy, you may want to.
Okay,
but it's up to you. But if you're going to do it, that won't hold you up either, because they have a meeting right before us if you want.
Okay.
And even if you go there, they know that, you know, they know this. So, okay. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
All right. The other public art is Lone Sailor Monument. This is downtown. This is unanimously approved with conditions. And the conditions are, if the sailor is to be facing due north, indicate north in the pavement. Otherwise, study the sailor, the direction the sailor is facing. And all existing trees should remain. All right.
We're excited to be here with you this morning. I would like to take a minute to introduce Mike DeBella, who is the CEO of USS Cleveland Legacy Foundation, as well as Courtney Spardell, the Director of Operations. If you don't mind, I'd like Mike to just explain their mission for a quick moment here, so a little bit of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the Commission, appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. I'm Mike DeVilla, former state representative and the CEO of the USS Cleveland Legacy Foundation, a role that I've been in for about the last 40 years or so in this inaugural position. In October of 2018, Shaker Heights native Tom Mobley was the Undersecretary of the Navy, came home to Cleveland, and from the deck of USS Codd announced on behalf of the Secretary of the Navy that Cleveland would be receiving the 4th ship in U.S. history named for the city of Cleveland. It's under construction right now in Marinette, Wisconsin. So our organization came together as a little bit more than what we would call a traditional commissioning committee. We're supporting the contractor commissioning portion of this effort. The ship will commission here in Cleveland next spring of 25, if everything stays on schedule. Then during phase 2, we'll continue to support the ship during service life. The ship will be stationed and home ported down in Mayport, Florida, near Jacksonville. And then as notional phase 3 for the organization, the ship will return to Cleveland after service in the United States Navy as a museum and memorial to all 4 ships that will have borne the name Cleveland. So a really terrific, exciting project for the city of Cleveland. A first-time opportunity that any ship named Cleveland will come to Cleveland, much less be commissioned in its namesake city, and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for all of us who are involved with it. So we're looking forward to sharing more with the city of Cleveland over the next year or so. We've raised about $4 million out of a $5 million campaign over the last few years, which we're very excited about. And I'll just share some information with you all. It's got phasing on the back and our campaign, which is called Launching a Legacy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So this is will be the 18th installation of this sculpture throughout the United States and abroad, and we're very fortunate to be able to have one here. First one was in the U.S. Naval Memorial in Washington, D.C. So our location is on the northwest corner of Port Coast Harbor. So this is the existing conditions. You have the 2 amphitheater lawns, and then we're going to be in that top left space there. There's 2 pavers on it. And then we are installing on city-owned land, and we've been working with John Luce and city folk to follow the correct procedures that have been in place with a memorandum of understanding, as well as a maintenance agreement. And then these are some views looking to the site, and the bottom right-hand corner is probably the best. It's a conditions photo of where we'll be placing the sculpture and plaza. So we are directly opposite of the obelisk, which is in the bottom right corner. We're placing the sculpture and plaza on the top left corner. As you mentioned, all the trees are going to stay in place, and we are essentially carving out about a 2x2 grid of the existing pavers and placing our features in that location. So the features include pavers unique to our space, the sculpture, which includes the sailor as well as the sea bags set up on a pedestal. We're also fortunate to be able to have some reclaimed materials from the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial on Public Square, which would be the inner circle ring of the granite pavers. And then there is a memorial wall, about 4 plaques that have already been fabricated. We'll flank the 2 outside pieces and then some new donor, the 3 in the central new donor plaques. That's right. That's an elevation at the top of the wall, the plaques at the bottom, and then the far right side there are the donor plaques. This is a section that cuts from the water's edge back through the space, showing the existing trees and planter wall. There are also 2 benches included as part of the plan, and then we are uplighting the sculpture, and then the wall itself will be lit from the front side and then the back side. But as we work with our stakeholders, it's important to keep a presence from the lake as well as from the park, maintain circulation around the space. And then as the renderings show here, second, it was important from the initial placement of the sculpture that we are able to capture a bit of Cleveland in the backdrop, which is why the sculpture does face due north, because we want to be able to get a little bit of that skyline with there being 18 different installations. When you take a photo, being able to have that recognition in the background, as well as space for ceremonies, for Muslim ceremonies, military ceremonies, and the like. And the flags that are shown in the image are going to be temporary. They will only be in place during ceremonies and then removed.
So go back to the statement. Is the sculpture the only piece of what you're asking for?
It's the whole composition. It's the pavers, the sculpture on the pedestal, the donor wall. Everything in that 2x2 grid is, we're basically taking out the existing pavers, replacing our pieces within that context.
Can you go back to the site plan?
Sure.
My issue here is just a question about the donor wall. So.
Then you're gonna go further.
Well, so here you show it this way, but then there's sure the existing promenade is to the water is on the other side of it, right?
Correct.
Okay, let me just see.
So you can still walk around all four sides of the plaza space.
Right. So it's just like I always have like when something like this is tall and it also is now going to block the best corner and view, right? The donor wall is actually, when you're inside the space, it's actually blocking the water view to the corner. I mean, it looks like it's not low, it's pretty high. And then when you're in that space on the other side on the water, you have this like blocked view also. So I wonder, for me, if you now go back to the rendering, if the height of that wall for me is problematic. Like, could it be lower so that it doesn't feel like a barrier, but you're still able to experience it? Because then it's like not the greatest experience actually to be on the other side of it, because it's just solid. There's nothing on it. So when you're really walking on the water's edge, you have a pretty lengthy, solid, not great experience. So for me, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just wondering, like, is the height here going to contribute to a great place to be?
So I would add that we are basically drawing people out to what we are understanding to be an underutilized section.
Yeah.
We've had some data that show that this is relatively not a portion of the park. The height of the wall itself is dictated by the accessibility guidelines for viewing the plaques themselves, as well as the existing plaques that we have fabricated that are a part of all of the other installations. And then we were considerate of the backside. If you look closely on the image, we've not only lit it, but we've also added text, recognizing that it is what it is to help with that.
I'm just not so sure it contributes to the to a great place. If people aren't using it, it's not going to get more use on the rec side there because of this. Although you're right, it will draw people here.
When you are standing there, you are looking, if you look down, out and over.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, so there's no way to lower it. Like
there's not a way to lower it in the accessibility guidelines.
What are the accessibility guidelines?
It's 28 inches to the lowest portion of the unequal text, and then it's an angle that's either 30 or 45.
Right. So that if you're in a wheelchair,
yeah,
is it for
exactly.
a wheelchair to be there?
People with all abilities.
Yeah.
Can I jump on this? So first, the design review comment about some sort of compass. Is that like, so theoretically, like naturally you would expect to like be looking out at the water at the corner, but that's northwest. And you're saying you want to have views of downtown behind, so like by facing north, that's the intent. So I guess I get it. I don't know if it comes to thing, but I guess for the monument sign or monument wall, I think what I struggle with is like from the other pictures of how this has been done in other cities, like from what you're standing behind is a picture of an individual staring out at the water, and it looks like from here it'd be a picture of an individual staring at a wall with like a little bit of water on top of it. So is it possible to like even just take this and rotate it clockwise so that it's like where the bench is right now? So that if you're coming up on it, you're looking at this is what this is as you're coming up in it, but does it preserve how it's done in other cities of the view shed from the monument looking forward is just water and not this. And because I understand you want the skyline in the background, so probably rotating it counterclockwise. Now, if you're doing a skyline picture, you've got a sailor, a wall, and some stuff in the background. Like, where's the best place for this wall if we're trying to preserve skyline, but also views on the wall?
I actually totally
agree. The challenge with the space is everything is symmetrical for the most part. So whatever you skewing it to, if I'm understanding you correctly, skewing the wall kind of skews all the symmetry that is built.
No, he's just saying rotate the whole thing so that the wall, rotate this 1/4 so that the wall is actually, so when you walk up to this, the monument is pointing to the water, you see the water, right? You're saying rotate the whole thing.
I'm saying, I mean, it's like here to like here, essentially. But even I don't think it'd be, I mean, it's open for discussion. Like we're looking at his face right now. So I can see why they don't want it back here, because if you're looking at a picture here, you don't want to see the wall. I just feel like he's looking at a wall, he's not looking at water.
He's looking at them. He's actually looking this way, like toward the water, and the wall is kind of flanking his left hand side.
Okay.
So his face is.
So that would be, so rotating, you're saying then rotating it to the left would make it worse.
No.
So you can see the symmetry in the plan, but the wall kind of being centered on that. So if you should just skewing it slightly one way or the other, that skews the symmetry of the space overall. I'm understanding.
So he's looking, I think Chris got this up. He's looking to the right of the wall's edge, not at the right side of the wall.
Right. He's looking out past the edge.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay. So you could stand approximately where the 12-foot dimension is out of the ground and look back, and you're going to see his face in the background.
So okay, thank you for that clarification. I don't know if I fully agree or disagree with the designer view comment of needing a compass, but I do think that the average person walking up would wonder, like, why are you looking at, like, I sat in this meeting all day and sat this way. Like, people would think I was a weirdo. You know, like, why are you looking at why? Which I am. Like, why? So I understand that the comment of why is the individual looking to the right instead of straight on, and would a compass help kind of make that seem like an obvious decision of, like, not even because of the skyline, but because, like, you're looking north. Yeah, I think it's something to consider. I just don't know how I don't know how I personally feel about it. So
that was some of the intrigue of the reveal of coming up and then turning and then seeing that skyline behind you, and then kind of ties all the lines in there.
I just think it's a huge. I like the project and I love getting people there. I would remove this high wall from the corner view and just put the wall in the area that it's least that people will use it. But like, so you could keep it exactly like it is. You're gonna have to redo the site plan, but really move the wall to this quadrant that I think if you go back to the site plan, I would
larger one.
There's that one. But I really would look at it being here in some way or something, so that when people are coming, they're seeing the sculpture in the water view. Personally, I mean, I understand what you guys are trying to do, but I think you're also it's actually creating not that great a place.
Madam Chair, to the applicant's point about symmetry, would there be an opportunity to investigate separating the wall into two pieces? I think to the applicant's point, like, it's going to be hard to position it to that north right corner and still have it feel like it's symmetrical. But if it was maybe just potentially two walls, or one was in north right and one was to the south left, potentially it could be open. You could walk through the wall and then still have that view, and then kind of accommodate two things happening at the same time.
Madam Chair, I like it. I do.
The 72% challenge is if you flip it to the opposite side, you completely block off and keep it as is intact, block off the main approach. So if it's sort of serving as backdrop to coming into the space. And if we split it into 2 pieces, we have 3 donor plaques, which is fitting our our donors that we're getting, the plaques that the amount of plaques that we're getting. Either you have to reduce one, which is not ideal, or to add one. And we're at 3, so you either need 2 or 4, so that becomes a challenge for splitting it also.
You have already purchased the plaques, so
We're in the process. The 4 big large plaques have been fabricated. The donor plaques are kind of being sold.
Well, that's not.
Those are the 3 smaller walls in the middle.
I mean, and again, I don't know our power in this, but I think it would be interesting to walk through that and then be able to see. I mean, the 3 donor plaques, it seems like potentially that's not if they're not having been ordered, it doesn't seem like a large design challenge to split 3 to 4.
I mean, what you said actually is the answer, right? You didn't put it on the other side because it would block the view. The water is the reason for Northwest Harbor existing, right? So I think you answered our question, right? You don't want to block the approach to this the same way we don't want to block the water.
Blocks approach to the space.
I know, but
go out nowhere.
But this is Northwest Harbor. The whole reason for being is the water, right? So I think we're asking to accomplish both, which is to create an amazing place that still celebrates the water when you're there, doesn't block it, and still accomplishes what you want to do in whatever way possible. Because I think that this is amazing. It's going to be helpful in attracting people to Northwest Harbor and to space. But would hate to do something that actually doesn't, you know.
And again, add that we're activating a corridor that's underutilized, and there are 3 or 4 sides of water all around that are viewable from other areas, and we're giving a reason to come out to the space.
So you're fine creating a place that is internally focused right there on the edge of the water.
I think it's asking you to come out there, and then once you're out there, it's not blocking the water, you're looking down and out over it. It's at a height that's no larger than the stanchions that are surrounding the promenade itself. They're about the same size.
One person.
I apologize for complicating it. I think it's just one of those scenarios where there's no back to it. Like every side of it is arguably a front. So that's like how do you achieve something that is logically sort of like the back, right? That's not a helpful comment. That's just where we are.
I would say we try to. There's the 4 bands representing the 4 services on the back side, but add some more interest to the back of the block. So we did try to think about all of the sides.
Oh. Does the city have any opinion on that?
Madam Chair, I believe Dan Schenkel was at the back of it.
Yeah, Madam Chair and committee members, through the process, we met with Jody to just talk through some of the design challenges at the site. I think, a big concern for us was just the original aspect of moving trees, and appreciate that applicant has worked with us on that piece and is not preserving all the trees. One suggestion that we had was pushing this all the way to the corner for the X element. That way there's sort of not like a backside to the monument itself. And I agree with the idea of lowering it. I'd love to see if you could bring back up the section view so you can really see how much of that view would potentially be obscured. But again, it kind of, if you get to the water's edge and the wall's there, I think it gets to that point that you're trying to make Jody that you can see over the wall and into the water and does less of that blocking issue that we have. I would just say that it puts it at the apex and then, that's sort of the purpose. I also, love the comments from the member you started too about is there a way to break up the wall and integrate the water further. Could be further study.
I mean, my opinion, this is North Coast Harbor. This is important place.
I also think the councilman's like the idea of the sailor looking at the water, and you could stand there and stare with them would be also nice. Again, if you paying attention to the symmetry, breaking up the wall, going from 3 plaques to 4. It also, I think, in line with the existing geometry of the site, you have those existing kind of seat walls that are weather planters. If you align the walls with that, I'm guesstimating like the length, but if you align the walls with those existing seat walls, you should probably have the amount of linear footage to accommodate what you have in a single wall. And again, it'd probably be like a pretty uniform, if you match those square bands with the 2 separate walls, it'll look like something that may appear that it's always been there because it's lined up perfectly with the existing kind of layout of the site.
Tara.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment. This particular project has been in the works for some years now. The site initially started at the northeast corner of Point Beach Park on the grassy area, and USS Legacy Foundation work with the state going back and forth. I believe this may be the 3rd or 4th iteration to come to this particular point. And I thought they came forward the broken walls already behind stuff with the state. But I like Drew's comment also petitions getting involved, but also just want to comment to the fact that they really work with the city to come up with this design together, wall, location, and different iteration studies.
And one more comment, if they were to move to that area where I think the benches are located right now, one of the things that I think happens with Memorial to provide seating, I always like to set the seating back outside of the memorial space. You're like, you want people to aggregate and kind of honor of like the area and pushing that seating back towards like the planter is not gonna, it's only a couple feet, but keeping that area unobstructed by anything that's not really memorial, I think it's a stronger goal too. So if it was to keep consistent with this, I would definitely put those benches back to be aligned with the planter, like design the offset, as opposed to being in the space.
You gonna make a motion?
There's a consensus. I mean, would you be opposed to just taking a couple of weeks to look at potentially splitting the wall and the orientation, both of design review and ours we want to help you. We want this to be exceptional. We don't want to hold things up. We don't want to make you go to another site. It's a great site for this. But I do think Commissioner Sargent's idea could solve everything and make this exceptional, and not really, really be able to accomplish everything and still connect better to the water. It's simple. It's a beautiful solution. So would you be opposed to just a little bit of time to explore breaking up the wall and creating a big enough open, and then looking at the orientation of the sculpture and then coming back?
If I could add, and I not knowing how much of a burden this is, and I hope it wouldn't be a big one, but I think there's like 3 view sheds. There's like the view shed as you're walking up the diagonal coming towards it, and like what you see.
Right.
And there's the view shed looking straight on at the monument and what you see in the background. And there's a view shed standing behind it and seeing what the sailor is looking at. And I think like So but those aren't easily like, that's kind of understanding whether it's this version or some other version, kind of like what are those view sheds? And I think that we're gonna come down to potentially is like the best worst option, because I don't think that there's one that's going to like hit it out of the park of like just be so obviously perfect. But I'm so interested in this. I like it so much that I want to kind of understand how all of those are impacted and kind of be able to kind of visualize your all's thought process. So I don't know if that's kind of one way to frame as we're looking at the placement of stuff. Like I think those are the 3 view sheds of interest. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Chair, I'll add just one more contextual item. This commission previously approved on its first hearing this complete project on the top of the hill. The problem that we ran into there was with the Federal Aviation Administration. It's within the runway protection zone for 20 feet left.
Flags are too high.
No, just the very presence of even the monument there, not the flags, not lighting, not anything else. So
it's a better site though.
Rather than fight, it's a terrific site. Both of them are fine.
Yeah.
But
it's I like
this. We tried to move to this site. We tried to move this gown, and I was told by donors that's not prominent enough. Recognize this is only one of 18 of these statues in the world.
Yeah.
I was actually maybe as the one in DC. This will be a magnet site for people that have commissioning ceremonies, retirements, promotions, and just a true opportunity to highlight the Cleveland skyline behind it. It's other locations are Normandy Beach,
right?
Utah Beach at Normandy, Pearl Harbor. It's amazing that Cleveland is even receiving this type of money.
I mean, we love it. We want to help you, but we want you to also help us get people to the water and see the water. And I think honestly, I think this will draw people on the diagonal if they can see not just this, but through it to the water is like a perfect probably solution. So go ahead.
I motion to
I would postpone 2 weeks and give you just 2 weeks to think about it. Not much of a change.
Motion to postpone, caveat that the applicant can look into the fabrication of the wall, along with analyzing the view sheds as Councilman suggested. That's my second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. We call the roll?
Anthony.
Yes.
Lucas.
Yes.
Yes.
Ray Scott.
Yes.
Knight.
Yes.
Sargent.
Yes.
Slide.
Yes.
Motion carries. You can come back as quickly as you want. We'll make it easy for you. Just take another look at it. Come on back. Thank you. And I agree. We're lucky. Great project. Thank you. All right. We have 2 items for that are for updates. We'll start with the Parks Master Plan.
I just
Jamie, it says here Jay. You're not Jay.
No, so Jay Capital Projects. He's the manager of Parks and Rec Planning. I'm Jamie DeRosa, the director of Capital Projects. And I have to say, I have not been before the Planning Commission for a while. I used to present often when I was the commissioner, and it's a privilege to be back. And I have to say, this is the most exciting project that I think that our department has done. It's a look at our park and recreation facilities. And the goal is, it's very ambitious to create a roadmap for an equitable investment into our park and rec facilities over the next 15 years. The city's done plans that have included park and rec facilities, but this is the first time we've really focused on park and rec individually and really looked at how we invest. The reason Capital Projects is doing it is because we're the ones that invest the usually bond funds into our park and rec facilities, but we've traditionally done it on a worst first basis. And so this is the first time that we're really looking at it globally, not just what funds we have, but also what is the community needing, what facilities do we have, and how can we transition from what we have to what the community is telling us that they need. So we're going to focus on that needs assessment today, the results of what came out of public engagement over the summertime. Jay's going to go through that for you. And I wanted to highlight though that the purpose of this plan again, is to figure out how to invest our limited resources to provide a framework to meet the needs of all the residents and also to improve the quality of our parks and recreation centers. We did the community needs assessment over the summertime. We're working on a long-range plan, which the community needs assessment feeds into, and then we'll end up with a strategic plan at the end of this about 18-month program. We do have a slide that we're not going to get into, each of the names. We have a slide that shows who the core team is, a wide variety of different city departments, as you see. Also, we have a group of technical advisors, as well as, if you go back one slide, as well as a steering committee, which includes, the Metro Parks and other outside agencies. Trust for Public Land has been a partner with ours as we're part of this 10-minute walk accelerator program, which we at the City of Cleveland have a great 10-minute walk score, which means what percent of your residents are within a 10-minute walk of a park. But where we struggle is, well, when you get to that green space, what do you get to, right? So we might have a great park score, but they're trying to help us analyze how do we increase the quality of the parks once you reach the green space. So next slide is just our consultant team. Olin Studios is our lead, and we have a wide array of different specialties, both local and national, to help us with everything from long-term maintenance costs to how to engage with the public. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jay, but we'll be here to answer any questions.
So thank you, Madam Chair. So we're really going to get into the details of the community engagement analysis. Just to level set you, basically a 15-month process. We're right in the middle of it right now. Community needs assessment ended last year in August, September. We're right in the middle of the long-range plan right now. When that's done, we'll go right into the strategic plan. So why do we do community engagement? It's really important to understand the needs of the residents today and the next 15 years, since it's the 15-year plan. And once we know that feedback, it's going to feed into a bunch of elements in the actual plan itself: the level of service standards, policy frameworks, and design guidelines. So it's really important to get that level set from the community right at the onset of the process, which we're talking about now. So what did we do for community engagement? So this is the timeline of the things we did. And we started basically in June with some internal summits with our team, internal and external. The bulk of it really happened in June, July, and August when we went out to the public and did a bunch of stuff. So what is that stuff? What did we do? We had about 1,500 points of engagement with the community. We did organizational stakeholders interviews. We've done over 35. Like those are continuing right now. We had a statistically valid survey that we sent out to people by mail, and they could return those by mail, online, and over the phone if they wish. We had an online survey, which basically mimicked the statistically valid survey, but just in a more user-friendly online format. We had 4 open houses, 3 at rec centers and 1 at a library. We had 2 pop-up events. We were supposed to do more, but they all got rained out. So we got 1 with QPL and 1 with the Department of Aging. Another cool thing we did was these neighborhood meeting kits. So basically took all the materials from the open house, packaged it together into an easy format. We gave it to community groups, and they held their own meetings at their own venue, at their own time, free of any city officials, looking over their shoulder, and they returned the results back to us. So it was a really cool engagement opportunity. We also had youth engagement specifically to the youth of the city. We did 2 at Camp Forbes in the summer, at the summer camp. We went to one school and went to 1 rec center. And I'm just going to flip through some pictures here of some open houses and some youth events, just to show you just some visuals of what we did. You see the boards we did, people talking to staff members, like that. Okay. So now we're getting into the actual numbers of what we heard from the folks here in the city of Cleveland. So one of the main reasons why we did this specifically valid survey was to get a really accurate representative sample of the city of Cleveland. Because we only know that certain people are going to show up to open houses, take the online survey. So this really helps us get an accurate representation of the city. So on the left side, you kind of see the makeup of the demographics of the city. and the results of the system ballot survey on the right. So you can see that they're pretty similar, and that's what we really wanted to get to. We do that because, looking at the next one here, people that did the online survey, completely different demographics, people that did youth engagement, completely different demographics. So it really gives you a level set of who is making up the city of Cleveland, what's here from them as a statistically valid survey result. And we do that so we can get within, I think, around 3% margin of error from the results. We have over 500 results from this survey. Another reason why we did the statistically valid survey is that we could break it into a little bit of smaller geography. We have these 7 planning regions that we're able to get results for. So the results get broken up into these. It's more statistically valid as a city as a whole. But within these planning regions, you get a little bit of geographic distribution to get kind of localized surveys. Okay. So this first slide is talking about asking people, do you feel there are sufficient parks and recreation centers walking from your home? Most people said yes. There are enough parks within my walking distance from my home. About half said yes for rec centers. And looking at the online survey on each side, they kind of get the similar results. Numbers are different, but the trends are very similar. So people think there are enough parks within walking distance. The next slide shows you a little bit of that geographic localization of the results. You kind of see, like, an example of the far west. They really think they have plenty of parks nearby, whereas downtown they're kind of lacking. That kind of makes sense. Rec centers, looking at that, there's no rec center downtown, so obviously there's people have nothing to walk to. So that gives you a little of those localized results. One question we asked is, how do you typically get to parks and recreation centers? By far, most people will drive to a park or recreation center, followed by walking and biking. But then we also asked you, if you're walking or biking or driving your car, how far are you willing to go maximum-wise? When we found people really willing to go a little bit farther to recreation centers and sports fields. Things kind of getting cut off there a little bit on the top. So looking at the parks, talking about the condition of the parks, unfortunately, most people think the parks are in poor or fair condition, not in excellent or good condition, and kind of likewise for recreation centers, really people think they are poor or fair condition overall. So we have some work to do there. And similarly on online survey and open houses, we heard similar things. The numbers are a little bit different, but the trends are still there. People think we have some work to do on the parks and recreation centers on their condition. This is talking about how often do you go to parks and recreation centers. For the most part, people go into parks pretty often, daily or weekly. By far, the majority. Rec centers, not so much. Now, it says more than half of people, 50% of people don't go at all, or just a few times a year. Of the people that do go to the rec center, about a third of those people use one of the programs in the recreation center. And they use those programs based on the time of the program being offered, the location of the program, and the quality also attributes why they go to use those programs. Of those people that do use the programs, looking at the quality of the program, most people thought they were excellent or good programs. So we have really good, we're doing really good on the programming side. Things that we do offer, they're offered really well.
I know this is, and we're going to lose a couple members at noon.
Okay.
So
I'll speed up in a little bit.
Maybe hit for us, what do you think we need to know as we're going to come back with the Parks Master Plan? What are the things you've heard that we need to absolutely know?
Sure. This is actually a good one here, right here. So this is talking about what's preventing you from going to park recreation systems. Most of it is the quality of the condition of the park. People are not feeling safe. They're just not. The atmosphere is just not inviting right now for the parks. That's really preventing people from going to park recreation centers. So that's something we need to improve upon. Interesting thing is, people know that there's a city park and metro parks. For the most part, yes, but it's interesting that some people just don't know the difference. They don't think they're different at all. So that's something interesting. So talking about what do people want in the park. So this is pretty interesting here is what are the attributes or the amenities that people want inside the parks? By far the most desired thing are paved trails, swimming pools, and just general green space that people can gather and hang out in. Those are the top choices people wanted to see in their parks, and playgrounds and other like kind of water features like that. This is a little breakdown talking about the local geographies of kind of see what different areas of the city want. It's pretty similar. This is indoor facilities. What's inside the recreation centers? By far, people want that swimming pool, jogging, walking track, exercise equipment. Basically, the basic things you think of rec center. What do people want? They just want the basic things, basically. Talking about programming in the recreation centers and parks, senior programs, aquatics, arts and crafts. Those are the top things people wanted in the programming side. Talking about other things that people would like to see in the recreation centers that are not currently being offered. People like to see more public health services, more mental health services, housing and employment services to help out. So kind of on the positive side, so why do people go to parks and recreation centers to begin with? Most people agree that it improves your physical health, improves the quality of life, it makes it more desirable to live in and live by. So kind of building off, we always ask this question, building off of the positive things. So most people are willing to support an increase in taxes or levies to fund park and recreation centers, either new facilities or improvements to existing facilities. So that's just a key indicator that we could get a little more support from folks. This is just a word cloud that our consultants put together when we asked 3 words to describe the park and recreation centers in the realm. This is what we heard back. Kind of see the red or kind of the negative and the green to the positive side. So outdated, unsafe, and underutilized. But people still think that it's fun, there's a lot of potential, and green space and accessible. So those are things that are great, but we definitely have things to work on. These are just some favorite memories people put down for their parks and recreation centers as they're growing up. Baseball tournaments, connecting with friends. What are things we do well? Renovations, recent renovations been really well done. People get the grass cut, things like that. What do we need to improve upon? So kind of big themes, maintenance, safety, upgrading old facilities, kind of things we've already been talking about. Any kind of emerging trends we hear from. Inclusive play is a big one we're trying to do more of. People wanting to see more of that. Connectivity, green space, sustainable design. Just some pictures again. One thing we asked for folks doing that, those neighborhood kids were to write a love letter or breakup letter to parks. So you really hear some really interesting stories from residents when you go through these individual stories. And those are we have those available if you'd like to see them. These are just some of the examples of the youth engagements. We have some really younger kids. You can kind of see they just tried their best. And we have some really detailed ones from the older kids. So this slide was from last month when we were had to get pushed from last agenda, but now the needs assessment report has been finalized. It has been published on our website. We're working with the Office of Communications to do a press release. Hopefully, probably next week that's going to go out. We're doing a whole PR push to make sure people are aware of it. But right now, if you go to our website, PLAparksdirect.com, it's on there now. You can see the report in PDF style or interactive interactive graphics on the website to see it both ways. So I kind of went that through quickly since you mentioned people have to leave. I'm happy to answer any questions or if you have any comments on it, I'd be happy to speak up.
Yeah. Question and a comment. Well, first, a comment. I think this is wonderful. Being a longtime Clevelander and having access to parks and recreation. The question I have is this part of this study also look at the fitness of this city to deliver? In other words, programming, capital improvements is one thing, bringing in best practices. So I think that's important as well. So it's great to come up with a plan. It's great to survey. Then what happens after that?
So this will be looking at programs for the recreation centers too. We just finished a programmatic assessment of what we're doing now and what we can do in the future based on this feedback, what we hear from the folks, what they want in the program. So we're definitely be looking at the program.
But it's kind of soup to nuts, August, including how to set up a separate park and rec department. You know, it's really comprehensive and not just let's set one up, but how do you do that? How do you over the years add to it so that it's what it needs to be? So it really and long-term maintenance, like I mentioned at the beginning. So it's not just saying, hey, you should have more of this, but you should have more of this type of that because the long-term maintenance is going to be more cost-effective. You know, you can meet your needs in better ways by doing this versus that.
So it's sort of a stress test across all sectors. It's not just what people. It's not aspirational. You know,
correct.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, because my number one going into this is to have an actual roadmap coming out of it, so that me as the director or other directors that the SIPACs know what to do and not just have a document that just says go forth and meet the community's needs, right? I mean, it's just, this is a very practical assessment, I would say.
Thank you.
Now, I would say, like, building off of that, one product of this is ideally at the end of this, we'll have a 5-year capital improvement plan that we just kind of reference every single year going through that first 5 years. That we know we're going to meet the community needs and we have the funding for it. So that's really the first work product is that 5-year CIP.
Yeah, and if I may add a little bit of context too, Jay, if you flip back to the pool to fill out with the child, like it's pretty indicative of kind of what Jimmy was talking about at the beginning, where you know, we rank very high in the TPL walk score to parks and a lot of effectiveness, but the quality of what we're not delivering on. And this child his or her favorite thing is about the park is that it has a pool. It's never open. And what can we do to fix it? The pool, right? Like this is just the saddest kind of cry for help when I read this, but like in a way it's very, I feel like indicative of some of the systems that we're delivering right now that we need to do a better job on, where sure we have this asset, but how are we actually delivering any amount of programming, any amount of, you know, wherewithal to youth and people who are
just to kind of build off that, Adam, like, and what this example on the left, this is a love letter. This person said, when I was young, I went to the park, it was the best thing ever. I played, had a great time, but as I've grown, you have not grown. You've basically stayed the same.
Sounds like marriage.
Over and over again, so.
Or disillusionment.
Yeah.
I like it. So when will we see you back with the plan itself?
Yep. I mean, it's probably going to be late summer, early fall, but we're going to be doing our work through kind of the middle of the summer, and then as an administration, we're going to have to determine, you know, how to roll out the results of that. So I would say late summer, early fall. Yeah, we can give updates in the meantime, but we are going to have more community engagement starting in the late winter. So you'll see us out in the public, but we might not be back with any results to planning commission until then.
I do have one more question. It's just a thought that occurred to me. I mean, obviously, this is all good intel. I mean, and I know plans take a while. Is there a way to look at maybe some pop-up efforts, sort of test some assumptions and test some of the responses you're getting without a huge outlay of cash or human capital, but so that there's the community sees there's something actually happening and you're trying to understand what that means?
So I would probably answer that in this way. We were fortunate enough to have some revenue recovery funds related to ARPA that we were able to invest in recreation. And so the way that we did that, so instead of embarking on new major rec center projects, we have some that are underway, but we figured we were looking at how can you invest in things that everyday folks all around the city can benefit from, no matter what the outcome of this plan is. It's not really a test like you're saying, but So we did a playground in every ward, which might not seem like a lot, but it's a lot of money to do, right? And we're meeting with neighborhood groups and with the council members, and some of those actually just started, since the weather's nice, they're starting to do some demolition. And then we're doing all of the basketball courts at the rec centers that needed improvements so that they could have an inner rec center basketball league, because all the courts would be resurfaced. So I would say we're doing that. And then we also invested in the worst of the locker rooms at the rec centers, because again, no matter what you go to the rec center for, if the locker room is crummy enough, it really impacts anybody that goes there. So those were the things that we came up with that are kind of, they touch a lot of people, but they aren't really, you know, we're not tackling an entire park. Some are underway, but not tackling new large or park or rec center projects.
Thanks, that's cool.
Okay.
Okay. That's great. Actually, those kind of things are pretty impactful, important.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah, just kind of build off the one thing we keep hearing from people, they don't want big crazy things. They just want the basic amenities like lighting. They just want to feel safe. They don't need big water parks or anything crazy. People are just asking for the basics, you know, that be maintained and well, you know,
yeah.
Well, thank you. So we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Great work,
everybody.
Okay.
And I think we're gonna hand it off to Phil Kidd.
Well, actually, you're not.
Oh no.
Unfortunately, because we folks have to go. But can we see you next meeting, and we'll make sure we get to it regardless. So we apologize for that. But
no problem.
So thank you. So I think meeting is adjourned. Thank you.